Shut it down.
I'd like to call the Committee on Public Works to order at 6:57. We have some guests here tonight. First of all, I'll read the motion, and I'll ask the guests to come up. I entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to execute and submit the municipal aggregation plan for electric services to the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities for review and approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. At this time, I believe some of my fellow councilors have some questions, and we have two representatives here tonight, one from Serped and
From Good Energy.
from Good Energy. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to open it to my fellow councilors for questions, so we can bring this out tonight later for a vote.
I'm ready.
Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead. Go ahead. Ladies first.
Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen. It's nice to see you again. I think this is our third time, if not fourth. I did have an opportunity to review the aggregation documents, and there are some things that kind of I wanted to get a little bit more clarity on. And I will say, prior to this, I've appreciated your honesty and your forthrightness when in discussing this with us previously. There are some things that maybe it's me that's a little confused, or maybe it's written a little strange. But on page 5 of 12, it says, at the time of the launch, the municipality will build on its existing public awareness, and the municipality will use a variety of media to communicate the objectives of the plan, the primary terms and conditions of the contract, and the right to opt out at any time. I was under the impression that any and all of the, and again, there's this strong possibility I was incorrect. There's a lot of information here. But I was under the impression that any of the advertising or any of the information that was going to be relayed to the community as a whole was on Good Energy's part, not the municipality's part.
Right, so that is correct. This just means that, for example, right now we have a website that includes Attleboro in it. And on the city's website, there's just a link to that site. So it's just linking to a site like that, because inherently people are going to go to the city's website, and then from there they'll find their way to our information. They're not probably going to be able to get straight to us without going through the city. We will do some marketing, hopefully they do that, but for a lot of people, they go to the city's website first, they see information about the program, they click on that and go to us. So the city's not going to have to spend any money or resources other than approval for those types of things.
Thank you. May I redirect, please? Thank you. As you continue to read on from that point forward, it shows different ways in which they would like the information disseminated, and some of it is, a community-wide presentation public meeting, which we did have one of those. Let's see what else. The local access, different documents and things like that. And I just didn't know. One of my concerns is I can see that there's the potential for individual customers to possibly save $80 to $150 a year. That needs to be very specific. It's a year. It's not a month on your bill. I don't want our municipality to have to now then incur a cost to help to do this. So that's where my concern comes from, is that I don't want if we sign on the dotted line, now the municipality, as it states in here, is now has to incur the cost of advertising, promoting for Good Energy.
No, there's going to be none of that. The city won't incur any cost. The only, there's some time, so when we develop this plan as to what we're going to do for the city, there's some time required for the decision-making on your end as to, this is the good newspaper to advertise in, this is the, I know we've already had some conversations with Council President Cook about was it the Council for Aging, to do a presentation to them. That's it. There is no cost, there's no out-of-pocket expenses. All of that is on Good Energy.
Thank you.
Mr. Churchill is next.
Good evening, sirs. Along the lines of the councilor, some people have asked me, and just for clarification, hopefully they're watching. At this present time, other companies are approaching electric consumers. They need to understand that Good Energy is the one that this honorable body will, if we select, to let operate in the city to buy into the system that has volume in other communities, number one. And if they opt in, they can opt out at any time, but once they opt out, they're out. Is that correct?
Okay, so to clarify that, and that's a great question, so anybody that opts out initially, but let's just say after a few months decides they do want to enter the program, what will happen is they will be allowed to come back into the program at what is called a market rate. So it's not necessarily going to be the rate that the initial program went out at. It's going to be a rate that's based on the market at that time. And the reason for that is because the DPU does not want people to game the system, to opt out for a few months when rates are better and then come back in. They don't want to do that. So if you opt out, you're allowed to get back in, but it'll be at a market rate, and you'll be presented with the savings at that time of that market rate.
So my follow-up question is, when they opt in, if they opt in, they're locked into that rate for how long again?
Well, we don't know what we're estimating that we're going to be looking at 2 to 3 year terms.
Okay.
But we haven't gone to bid yet. Once we go to bid and once we get closer to that time, we'll have a better idea.
Well, that information will be available when they opt in.
That information, once they decide they want to join the
They'll
program,
know the rate and how long the rate is going to be held for.
right, they're going to get,
Those
they're
are
going
some
to
of
be
the many
getting.
questions that I was asked.
Exactly, so that's a great question. So let's just say we'll say it's a 2-year term. Somebody decides to opt out at the beginning, 6 months later, they want to get opt in. They're then going to be given a market rate for the remainder of that 18-month term, right? Does that make sense? Because they were out for the
understand what
first
you're
6. Okay, so that's how it will work.
So basically, what you're saying is that at the initial time of getting into the program, when the rate is probably going to be the best, that is the most fortuitous time to buy in.
That is, yes, now, absolutely, but if someone chooses to opt out, we're not going to keep them from getting back into the program.
It's gonna go down.
Yeah.
But just to make a distinction, if somebody is with a third-party supplier when the program starts, and that contract, let's say, expires after 6 months, and now they want to get into the program, they will get the original rate, because they technically didn't opt out.
Okay.
That's a
I
key
understand.
distinction.
And just as my last follow-up, if I may, Mr. Chairman. So one of the concerns would be, once we're in, we stay in for the 2 years unless we opt out. When you first came before us, I didn't see that option. I don't think I heard that option. So that's an option I hadn't heard of. When I told people, I said, once you're in, you're in. Once you're out, you're out. But that's not the case.
No, you can leave at any time for no penalty.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. I think, I know you had a forum at the public high school, which is really good. I'm glad I went. Because I think what I had was some pronoun misunderstanding. You guys were here before us. You said, you guys will get, which I thought was the city council, get to choose the term and how much renewable energy and the person who could kind of sign the contract. And I think what I learned when I went to the high school was you two gentlemen didn't necessarily mean you, the city council. You meant like you.
The city of Attleboro.
Yes, okay, so that was very much not clear to me, and I think to many of my colleagues on this board. Lots of the kind of important decisions which I thought this honorable body would get to make, we actually don't get to make at all. And even when I asked you further about the term, that's not even the city. That I think by you get to choose the term would mean we, the mayor, would get to appoint someone who would sit on a board which would have input on how long the term would be. Is that correct?
So the term of so right now we have 21 communities that are part of this, that are going to be going out to bid together. The term that they select will be the same. It'll be arrived at through a bid committee, and that's really one of our strengths. We've done this, we've had 108 communities sign in one day. So we're very good at building consensus, and when we get the pricing matrix, it's usually pretty clear which term is the most favorable. So everybody will do the same term. As it relates to renewable, that each individual city or town can determine what they want to do as far as renewable energy. So everybody, let's say, will do a 2-year term, but Attleboro may decide to go 10% green. Fall River may say, we want no green. New Bedford may say, we want 50% green. Every city and town will determine that on their own. As it relates to the process, we do not get involved with the city or town's process by which they designate a representative to be on the bid committee and to sign to be pre-authorized to sign the bid document. We don't ever get involved in consulting how a city or town should do that. We just say that we just need a representative that will contribute and be part of the bid committees, as well as be pre-authorized so that on bid day, when the prices come in and the contract's there, they're authorized to sign it.
So good, I think that's a good point, because when I was reading the aggregation plan, there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding about how the city works. Like, there's parts about where you talk about how at a town meeting, we approve different things, and we're neither a town nor do we have town meetings. Under the historical overview, it seems like some of the things that the aggregation plan thinks have occurred actually haven't occurred, and we're maybe doing it right now when the aggregation plan says it was done April 14th. I think it might help both the city and it might help Good Energy also to see if going into different cities and towns, you might have a better understanding of how that works. Because I know it just made me feel uncomfortable having to, in my head, evolve the meaning of who you was. From, oh, you's not the city council, you's the mayor. Oh, you's not the mayor, you is an appointee of the mayor on a board, which we're one of 20 of. It just made it seem like at first we had all of these great decisions which we would get input in, and then it now kind of seems like we just give the green light go ahead and it's really taken out of the city council's hands. And I understand from a Good Energy standpoint, you guys don't care, like the city handles city side and you guys handle your guys' energy side. But from a city standpoint, that really does matter to me. I have constituents I have to answer to. They think that I have, some input on how long the term is and how much renewable energy, when that's actually not the case at all, and not even the mayor has an input. Whoever that appointee is the only person with that input. And then when it comes to the term, that person is one of 20 who has to kind of negotiate and choose the term. It went from something that seemed very clear-cut and in the power of the city council to something that's really ambiguous and kind of outside of our control. So I would appreciate it if you guys could look at page 2 on the historical overview. I do think that it says on April 14th, the Public Works Subcommittee voted to recommend the municipal aggregation program to the city council. I actually think that's what might occur tonight. That's not something that occurred last month. And then also, if you look.
No, that was the actual, that was when we were first here. This is the plan that's being voted on. That was the original motion that was, that you passed to become an aggregator.
So then that didn't just make it out of Public Works, that actually also made it out of the full council.
Right.
So that could be
Right.
added in between April 14th and the blank date. Then we can add today again for accepting the aggregation plan if that's what's chosen to be done as another spot.
Sure.
And then if later tonight we choose to pass it, I just think that could be clearer. And I have a question on I took notes, I swear. Yes, okay, so if you look at page 2 of 12, it's under statutory requirements, which is Roman numeral 2, sub-point 1, local approval. It's confusing because it talks about local government authorities before so the statute requires municipality to obtain approval from the local governing authorities before initiating the development of the plan. That's what we're doing right now, so good. And the municipality satisfied the local approval requirement when the residents voted at a town meeting to initiate the process of municipal aggregation. These are not things that the city does or can do. I know, like, with lots of towns in Massachusetts, you have town meetings and all the residents get out and they get to vote and give approval. As a city, we're kind of bigger and we have a different structure. So I think this might be kind of boilerplate about just ways to approve statutory requirements, but this is just not an actual way we could do it. The way it would happen is it would go kind of through the city council and then up to the mayor for his approval. So I just, I still think I'm on board because I understand what's going on. I do feel uncomfortable by the pronoun misunderstanding, and maybe that's just on me. Blonde hair, maybe I'm ditzy, but I see other people agreeing with me. And then I would like kind of the dates fleshed out, and I'd like it kind of clarified that we're a city. I was also kind of taken aback that my understanding was that when you opt out, you're opted out. So when I read this, that you could opt back in, I thought, great. And then it goes, but you could opt back in at a different market rate, which wasn't explained to me fully at first. But I'm glad I was able to kind of read through this and get that. And then I also, I want to know, so there's a part in here where you talk about every 6 months or every 3 months.
Page 7.
Good Energy gives, page 7. All right. Good Energy gives quarterly disclosures, or would, under the statute, give quarterly disclosures about pricing and changes or whatever your disclosures are about. But then I see that we're requesting a waiver from those disclosures, and I was wondering, and I see that lots of other cities and towns have done that same thing, but I was thinking, you know, I would rather be over-informed than not informed at all. So I think that might be a cost-saving measure, but it's kind of the opposite direction I would like to take it. So I know I just threw a lot at you, but I was hoping we could kind of clean this up a little.
Okay, we can start right from where you started. So,
Okay.
so this plan, the reason we use this plan is because it has been pre-approved. So it is boilerplate, because that's exactly what the DPU said. They said, don't give us 21 different plans. Give us the same plan. So it's gonna use the word town meeting, which is relevant to towns. And then if you go to page 3, under organizational structure, it mentions city council and the mayor, so that's what's gonna apply to cities. So it is, by design, a boilerplate copy. In fact, it's one of the first times you were ever been encouraged to plagiarize. So the DPU says, don't reinvent the wheel. Go pick out this plan that has been approved and base all of them on that. That's how we're going to go through DPU quickly, because they're going to know that they have 21 identical plans. Some of the language in here is not going to be relevant to a city. Some of it is not going to be relevant to a town. But collectively, it addresses everything that's necessary. In terms of the coming in at a market rate, so let me give you a little background. So the reason we need that is because if you're a supplier and you feel that people can opt in when rates are favorable, opt out because remember, we're going to probably save quite a bit during the winter, and we may save little or even lose a little in the summer. So we're going to look at things on an annual basis. What they don't want is people saving a lot in the winter, and then in the summer they say, oh, you know what, I could save $5 if I went back to utility, and now they opt out. Because what happens is everybody who stays in the program full-time will pay the price for that. Because the supplier is going to say, I'm going to have a significant amount of the load opting out and coming back in. They're going to take that and reflect it. That risk premium is going to be reflected in the rate. So the best way to get the best rate for everybody who's looking to participate throughout the program is to have it where when somebody does come back in, they're not going to have to honor the rate from 6 months ago or a year ago, which they declined to participate in. They're going to get a market rate at the time based on maybe that particular month there's 100 people that opt in. Well, then they're going to take that and they're going to offer those 100 people a market rate. So the market rate provision is the best way for everybody to get the best rate.
Okay, just quickly, at that market rate, so say opted out and I want to opt back in, I get market rate. Is that then a rate that's secured until the end of the previously agreed upon term?
Right.
Okay, so it's like a set rate again.
Right.
With whoever else happens to opt in at the same time from all those other cities and towns in the program.
Right,
Okay.
that's what I was saying. If let's just say it's a 2-year term and somebody opts out at the beginning and then opts in after 6 months, the market rate they get is going to be fixed for the remaining 18 months.
Okay.
And then they're obviously, everybody starts over again, so the program would start over again.
That new opt-in rate may not be as favorable as the original rate.
On purpose, intentionally.
Well,
Well,
based on the market.
based on the market.
But yes, by design.
Because if it's better, then that defeats the purpose of putting in that disincentive. All right. And then my last question has to do with, I saw that equality and equally are not the same, and what you want to do is you want to break the city into kind of like 4 categories of residents, small business, medium business, and large business, and then lock in possibly 4 different rates, one for each of those subcategories. And I was wondering what the intention behind that was, and who typically gets the lower of the rates of those 4 categories.
So by law, we have to match up to the utilities rate classes. We can't change their tariff classes. So every rate class will have their own rate.
So those are the rate classes that exist today with the utility. So we're just gonna provide a price for each of those rate classes.
Right.
So currently what's the lowest price, and with good energy, what typically happens to be the lowest price?
I mean, I can't really speculate on, I can tell you that the very large commercial and industrial customers often don't get an attractive price. And there's a reason for that. And the city of Attleboro has a contract, I know, for its municipal buildings. And the city can't just decide today to say, I want out of that contract. No, it's a contract. You're going to have termination, liquidation, mark-to-market penalties if you do that. Okay, so, but this aggregation doesn't allow for that, right? So you could have, let's just say you had a really large industrial customer that's sitting on the basic service. A supplier would look at them and say, wow, I have to let them into the program by law, and by law, if they want to leave, I can't charge them a termination penalty. That poses a huge risk to a supplier when you're talking about the really largest rate classes. So what happens is they can't, by law, turn them down. So often you find that the largest rate classes often have an unattractive rate because they don't want those customers, right?
High risk.
It's high risk, and that hurts everybody. So really, it's the lower rate classes that often have the most to benefit, and the larger ones that really don't. And usually, if we see any really large industrial customers, it's typically because there's some credit issues, and that's keeping them from participating in deregulation. So they're kind of stuck with the utility. So yeah, that's typically what you see. I just also, I have my note here, so on page 7 where you mentioned the request of waiver.
Yes.
So the reason for that is that's coming from the supplier. And it says the municipality requests a rest of waiver from requirement the disclosure label be mailed to every customer and seeks, so every customer has the potential of being, for the Serped group, 230,000 households. So if they're doing this on a quarterly basis, it increases costs. Now, we will report to the city, we will report to DOER as required, but to require the supplier to report to every single household is just going to drive up expenses. They're going to recoup those expenses in the rate, and you end up with a higher rate.
So the posting that Good Energy does to the city and to the DPU will also be on your webpage. So that I think there'll be full transparency, and people will be able to track the progress based upon the website versus a mailed item.
Because the thought is that would have been a municipality expense. So we're cutting that expense for the city. Is that correct?
It would have been a utility expense that would have been embedded into the bill.
That would have increased the bill. Okay. And back to Mrs. Parika's point about page 5 of 12, it's I think operations, and then like point Roman numeral 2, subpoint B, where it talks about once weighing suppliers selected, the municipality will implement a public education program, the delivery of a comprehensive professional public education program, yada yada. The municipality has already begun to. The municipality will use a variety of media sources to communicate it. And I understand you're here saying that you guys will pay for it. I just don't see, maybe I haven't seen it or I cursory read it, I don't see where in the contract or in the aggregation plan it says this will be Good Energy's duty to supply these mailers and to do the education, the website. I mean, you've already started, so I see the good faith effort, but maybe I missed that section. You can point that out.
Some of that was covered specifically in the RFP, the scope of services that,
In the bid previous.
to acquire their services.
Okay.
But I think it refers to municipality because the law was set up to allow the municipalities to do this on their own. And that was the format that's being done.
Does
But
Serped have a contract with Good Energy in bid form or in something that says that Good Energy would cover this?
we have the scope of services that they submitted to us, and the city has signed a professional service agreement with Good Energy that covers the rest of those details.
Yeah, what you're talking about is not going to be in the aggregation plan, because this is a plan that's just making sure that the aggregation plan follows the law, right? So what you're talking about is the professional services agreements, which clearly states that there's no cost for this.
Okay, and
Clearly
you agree
states.
with that?
Yes.
Yeah, clearly, there is absolutely no cost. And the one thing, and I totally understand what you're saying about the person that gets assigned for the bid committee, and let me try to explain it a different way. So it's not like you all of a sudden go from being very involved to completely uninvolved. Typically, what would happen is you are all of a sudden designated the person. So you're coming to bid committee meetings, we're providing documentation, which then she's coming back and sharing with the council and saying here, or whatever process that would be, along with the mayor, however that comes out. It's not like all of a sudden she's the only one that's making any decisions. She's just a representative of the city that's sharing information about, okay, here's what we're thinking. They're thinking the range is going to be between 9 and 9.5 cents. Here's going to be the cost to go 50% green. Here's the cost to go 25% green. What do we think we do? And collectively, in whatever process you typically do to collaborate and share and come to an understanding, she's the messenger, right? That's really what it comes down to. You give her the authority to be the messenger of come back and forth all the time with information, because the bid committee is meeting several times ahead of the bid. So it's not like bid day, we're all there and we have no idea what to expect. We know what to expect on bid day. It's not a big surprise unless something really unexpected happens in the market in the 24 to 48 hours preceding the bid that throws things out of whack. We know what we're going to get, and she's communicated that with you. You've communicated instructions to her as to, look, if the price is within this range and we can get green for, typically the way the green works is people say, we're willing to spend 0.2 of a penny on green. Get as much as you can get. If that's 25%, if that's 50%, that's typically how it's viewed. It's viewed as, get me as much as I can for this amount. And then she's the representative that's authorized to sign. So I don't want you for a moment to think that you're really kept in the dark any more than right now, the way your city works, I would imagine that you would have situations like this where somebody comes back and reports back to people and you collaborate and discuss as to what you feel comfortable with and make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I just want to make sure that there's nothing on our end that we somebody gets designated and now all of a sudden that person is charged with all the decision-making and all the criteria that's going to affect every resident in the city. It's not like that at all.
And in parallel to the formal process, you can call me or Stefano anytime with a question. And that goes for residents as well. I mean, if there's questions about what's in my bill and how's it working, you're acquiring an energy consultant through this process, working on your side of the table. So you call when you have a question.
Right, and if there's a, hey, can you come in and speak at our council meeting this week and give us an update? That happens.
And it did. And you guys, within 2 hours, agreed to come here.
Yeah, I think, I think Linda's email was responded to.
I think the
within a minute.
difference is your understanding of the process is more of an idealized one, which could occur, it might occur, but it's more of an ideal as to what could occur and might occur, rather than what necessarily will. And I have the same ideals as you, but sitting around this horseshoe in the nitty-gritty, sometimes people have to take decisions and go make decisions, and we're not always necessarily informed, nor do they want to come to us every week for our input if we don't get a vote on it. So I understand where you're coming from. I just think your ideal and my ideal versus what might be the reality could be different, and could in fact give this honorable body less input than we would prefer. Now, I don't think you could do anything to change that. I don't know if we could do anything to change that. And maybe if we put our point of view out there, we will get more input with that person. But I just don't think that assuming that that's actually what will occur is the right thing to do. And once again, I am not necessarily against this. I think I'm so glad that you guys are so willing to come talk to us, and I learned a lot from your meeting at the high school. I just want to make sure I fully understand it. And I actually have to say, I had a whole bunch of difficult questions, which I think you answered very professionally and politely and accurately. So I appreciate that. I think my colleagues would like for me to give up
Yes.
the floor right
I
now.
was
Just
just
like
going
to
to
add-
suggest that.
I don't think there's a potential for a big disconnect between the ideal and what happens, because if what happens on bid day isn't what you're expecting, your representative will say, not interested, and you can
Not
wait.
our representative, though.
Yes,
It's the cities. It's not the city councils.
Okay, so that's back to
so
the
that's
pronoun
a
again.
differentiation.
Back to the pronoun again,
Yeah.
you're right. It's the city's representative.
Yes.
And we want to sort of stay hands-off on that, is to let you guys and the mayor figure out
Yep.
how that's going to work.
thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Mr. Conti, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little uncomfortable that the Massachusetts legislature would write a general law that mandates a quarterly disclosure and then sets a waiver in it so that you can ignore it. And I don't think I fully understand what would be the contents of that quarterly disclosure. Could you elaborate on what that disclosure would contain? If there
Typically,
was one.
the quarterly disclosure would have participation data. It would have information about the sources of energy, where those came from. But again, it still gets made accessible to every resident, but it's just not being mailed to every resident. It's full transparency. It's purely a cost issue. And I can tell you, every single plan that has been approved by the DPU has that waiver. Because you're just not going to get a supplier. To have a supplier, because what happens is when you pass the motion, the city actually declares itself an aggregator. So you don't need Good Energy. You could go out and do this on your own. The law allows for that. You could go out, run a bid yourselves, educate the public. So the city is the aggregator. We're simply brought on as a consultant to take care of the process from A to Z. But that's why if you actually read that, it actually says the municipality will pay for this. A lot of the language in here is coming from the point of view of the municipality, because you are the aggregator.
So let me ask a question a different way. If I was to sign on, if I was to opt out of this program and sign on with ABC Energy Company as a private homeowner for a locked-in price for a 2-year period, would I be receiving quarterly disclosures by law?
No.
Not from us, and
No,
it's
your
up to
supplier.
what your supplier has agreed to do.
But are other suppliers offering quarterly disclosures? Or are they 100% waived?
They may, I can't speak as to what every other supplier will do. I can tell you that you're probably going to have a hard time finding a 2-year rate. But exactly what they have to offer you in terms of keeping you, mailing those types of things, I can't really.
I don't expect you to answer the question, but why did the legislature mandate a quarterly disclosure?
I think it was because it realized that it makes it cost prohibitive, and basically means that the program, the foundation of the program is based on savings and getting a good rate. And if a supplier feels like they're going to have to send a mailer 4 times a year to every single resident, that becomes a cost that hurts the program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. I'm going to help you out a little bit.
Thank you.
Because on page 5 of 5, it does describe who the responsible party is in the budget for notification to the media that Good Energy will be the responsible party to pay. with the, so there is a budget, it doesn't say thou shalt pay, it was
What page are you on? I'm sorry. What
page
was
5 of 5. It's towards the back, there's several different contracts. So that's one. I think my comment to, in support of Councilor Denley's comments regarding, I understand there's a difference between, municipality, town government versus city government, I get it. But I think that this statement under local approval should be accurate, an accurate reflection of what happened. I understand the boilerplate, but the municipality this municipality did not satisfy the local approval requirement when the residents voted on a town meeting to initiate the process of municipal aggregation. I'm struggling with that, because a
You're on page
representative
5
from the
of
city is gonna
12?
sign that. Page 2 of 12, a representative from the city is gonna sign that. We've all sat here and said, 10 years from now, when I'm not here anymore, or 2 years from now, or a year from now, when I'm not here anymore, somebody else is gonna have to live with the decision that we made, and it says that we satisfied the local approval requirement when residents voted at town meeting. We didn't do that, so take it out.
We can change that.
Or say
City council.
the city council approved it on X day. I think is clearer, it's factual, it's not the templated form that you have likely used in many other municipalities. And then the representative for the bid committee, is that person, we talked about it, I believe we talked about potentially using other people in the city or commingling the responsibilities there. But are there other municipalities, could you share, in different municipalities, they've done this, that, or the other thing to help me understand? Because I think that we do have on the city side, the city auditor, for example, I'm just throwing that out there for that represents the city and represents the council. She actually works for the council. We appoint her, and she reviews these types of documents, whether it's the bus contract or other high ticket item. And so I'm just kind of would like to hear your position on potentially someone other than the mayor or in conjunction with the representative of the bid committee.
Okay, so first, your point about the changing that, we can absolutely make that change to reflect language that states city council as opposed to town meeting. Not a problem. So typically, the person has been somebody that is familiar with energy or procurement, right? So it's typically been a town manager, city manager, administrator. In New Bedford, there's a lot of cities have energy, people with specific energy positions that are used to negotiating energy contracts. So somebody that's familiar with the terminology and somewhat comfortable with having those types of discussions is typically the person it's been. It's we've done this for 150 some odd communities throughout the country, through multiple sets of renewals, and it's usually that type of a person, somebody that is familiar with procurements, somebody that's comfortable with energy lingo, familiar with how those things are, just that type of person, not somebody that's totally outside of that realm that's really going to find themselves, just unfamiliar with the terminology.
That's fair.
Mr. Churchill.
Thank you again. I'm the average person, consumer watching this council meeting, and I have a confusion headache. So what I want to know is, the bottom line is, I'm the customer. If and when it gets past this honorable body through the city, basically, your bill of sale is to the consumer. I can opt in, I can opt out. If I opt out and I come back in and the rate's lower, do I keep that rate for a year and a half?
Yes,
And even though it's lower than yours?
yes.
Okay. So my question to you is this. everything depends on the volume of purchasing people who purchase good energy, correct? Is there a minimum in the city that have to be in on this, or like say there isn't a big amount of people that buy into this? Because the bottom line is it's going to the average person. With this honorable body and the city decides to say good energy, you can operate in the city, you still got to sell it to the people.
Okay, so I think that's a good point.
You're selling it to us now, and all we're going to do is pass it on. No matter what the rhetoric is here, we're going to pass it on to the average consumer. The average consumer needs to understand, if I'm in, I'm in. If I'm out, I'm out, but I can come back in if the rate's lower, and I can stay at that rate.
Yes, and I think it's worth clarifying that the program is what's called an opt-out program. So that means the average resident, any business that is paying right now their supply to National Grid, which means they haven't elected to choose a third-party supplier, all of those accounts will be enrolled in the program automatically. So that's where the purchasing power comes from, because the supplier knows that under these parameters, typically you're going to get 90%, there's a certain amount of people that are already left to participate with the third-party supplier, so they're not eligible. Statistics show that less than 5% will opt out. So let's just say a supplier knows that they're going to have about a buying power of about 90% of that pool, and they take the risk that if 90% of the people decide to opt out, for those 10% that didn't, they're going to still hold that same rate. The supplier takes that risk. So we use the term opt-in, opt-out. It gets a little confusing, and if I was speaking to a resident, which I do a lot to try and explain things in the simplest of forms, is to participate in the program, if you're with National Grid, you don't need to do anything. You will be automatically enrolled in the program. If you are with a third-party supplier and you're looking at it and you're saying, wow, I'm paying more to my third-party supplier than the aggregation we have, I want to get into that, all you have to do is cancel that contract. Obviously, you may have, I don't know what that contract says, you may have penalties, whatever it is. Assuming you live by the terms of that, then you can get into the program, what we refer to as opt-in, at the original contract rate. I know it gets a little confusing, but the buying power for 80% of homeowners who are not going to do anything and are sitting on the utility, they're going to automatically be enrolled.
So in your best interest, it's in their best interest that they understand that you represent them first, so it benefits you.
Yeah, technically speaking, we want
Bottom line is,
maximum, we get
their
paid.
best interest is your best interest.
Absolutely. We get paid, the more participation, the more, we have a vested interest in making sure that participation is kept at a high level. That's why we have if somebody moves across the street, technically they're out of the program because they've closed their National Grid account, they open their National Grid account. We, on a monthly basis, get new accounts from the utility to make sure that anybody moving within the city or into the city gets into the program. And you're right, our interests are completely aligned. We get paid on that, so we want to maximize it, and it provides value to the residents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question.
One last question. At the end of the 2-year cycle, the residents are automatically re-enrolled into the program. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, re-enrolled,
At the end of the first term,
right.
the residents are automatically re-enrolled into the next program.
There would be another, so what would happen is at the end of the first term, let's just say the contract's expiring, we renew the contract, everybody will get another set of opt-out letters.
Okay.
It's just like it starts over again. People that were out of the program have the opportunity to get in. It's just a reset.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope my fellow councilors are satisfied and we can move this forward.
I'll check tomorrow to see what the vote is then.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And my cell phone number? Let's see.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I really appreciate you coming back.
Oh,
I'm
thank
sure
you.
that we've answered enough questions.
Yeah, could we, based on what Mr. Cooper asked, could we wait 1 week for them to submit a revised copy so that we could all kind of review that again? Because what I don't want us to do is to pass the copy, which Mr. Cooper doesn't necessarily like, and a few of us have some misunderstandings about when they could just give us a new one and we're all like, oh, this is great, and then kind of pass
How
that
much
through.
change are you looking for, Jeremy, in this?
Just what we discussed earlier. Yeah.
Is it minor? Ms. Hagan.
Thank you. Just as a member of the committee too, and I don't think this is directed at you in any way, because I think they can answer any questions with Good Energy and what they're providing. But I think what I'm getting is in committee maybe some more discussion, because it's more of the checks and balances. I think that it doesn't really have to do a lot with the Good Energy, but the structure of government, having the checks and balances. That's what I'm hearing, is just,
I hear what you're saying.
yeah.
If there is no timeline on this,
There, I
but
do
there
want to.
was.
Okay, there is. So as far as, I mean, so the plan has not been submitted to DPU. That's what you're authorizing us to do. We can absolutely, on the local approval, page 2 of 12, that Councilor Cooper mentioned, we can absolutely change that to be specific. To resubmit it will likely jeopardize Attleboro's ability to go out with the rest of the group. We have our consultation with DOER tomorrow afternoon. Coming off of that, the assumption is that we will be going to DPU. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not trying to create any false sense of urgencies or anything, but you may.
Don't sugarcoat it either.
You
There
may
is a
miss the
time
boat,
constraint.
right. You may miss the boat.
Okay.
So
And then what is the next cycle?
well, the danger is that if you miss this boat, you won't get in for the winter rate changes.
Okay, and then what will the next
A year
step?
Well,
from now.
Potentially a year, November 2016.
So either err on the side of caution and get every question and everyone answered.
I personally think most of them have been, other than some clerical stuff. Am I?
I would like to hear from counselors, not just asking,
Okay.
that's why I said
You
I
want
don't
us to
think.
leave?
Well, I don't
We
think
won't-
it's particularly, all the questions are directed at Good Energy or SERPA or the provided of the services. It's just the comfortability of, because I hear what Mr. Churchill said, and I'm on the same page as him. We're looking at the user, and once we make the decision to go with that. But what I'm hearing is maybe certain counselors just want to make sure the checks and balances, or I guess as an elected official, sometimes you do represent a group of people, and then you're kind of now giving it to a different part of government to make those decisions.
That's why there are different parts of government.
Correct, checks and
yeah.
balances.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be, the consultation with DOER tomorrow.
Yeah.
And hopefully they will provide us with enough information so we can then take it to DPU. So the Department of Public Utilities has still got their turn at it. There's public hearings involved in that process. This is not a decision that's going to be an Attleboro-only specific document. So I think there's a lot of scrutiny of this document going on and continue to go on, but I encourage you to keep with the masses, because if you get out of line, you could miss the bids,
Just-
when we go out as a group.
And just to give a little background, so the city, the experience other communities have had has been very different from Attleboro, because the plans, most of the cities and towns really got started in late last year. A lot of them had a fall town meeting, and some of the larger cities approved this at city council at the end of 2014. We submitted these plans to DOER in early February of this year. We should have had those plans out, and Attleboro was technically not going to be in that group. What's ended up happening is that there's been a delay at DOER, and that has allowed 9 other communities, including Attleboro, to basically, we only submitted your plan to DOER just 2 weeks ago. So it was kind of like, oh, here's one of these too. We did that with a bunch of plans. So Attleboro is basically, even though technically you're, let's say, 5 months behind, you're basically caught up with the whole first group. That includes Fall River, that includes some of the larger cities. So it's kind of funny, because even when we're sitting here talking, you think the process has been going very quickly, and it has, because everybody's been great in moving it quickly forward, and is allowing the city to basically do what's taken some other communities to get to this stage, 5 to 6 months, in basically, 6 weeks we've been here, 7 weeks maybe? So that's kind of the lay of the land, which is why missing this opportunity could really push you back quite a bit.
Okay. Well,
Thank you,
quickly.
Mr. Chairman. So, let me ask you this question, sir. If you were to draft a amendment to the document that we already have, including changing keeping in mind the concerns that the members of the council have, without changing what you're submitting tomorrow. You still have time before you go before the Public Utilities Board to amend that document to reflect the amendments that you would make to our document?
Yeah, so DOER has this document in this condition. Their role, so without taking up any more of your time, I don't want to keep talking, I know I'm pushing your night late, but, so when deregulation was passed in '97, unlike other states, this law was part of it. So municipal aggregation was part of the law. Other states had deregulation and only recently passed this type of language to allow for this.
Yeah.
And so the process had DOER involved in a consultative role because deregulation was new, municipal aggregation was new, and they just wanted to get a lot of eyes on this to make sure that, a lot of governing bodies got to say, well, yeah, that makes sense, I guess. That was the reason. The role of DOER is not even an approval. It's a consultative role. So they have this as it is. They're not going to make specific comments. They're going to really make comments that are more about, okay, how does a customer get in and out of the program? How are you making customers aware of this? It's consumer protections type of stuff. So to answer your question directly, absolutely, we can make this change before your plan goes to DPU, which is, I don't want to say the important submission, but it really is.
Well, they're the
DPU
ones
is,
who make the decisions.
yeah, DOER is a consultative, DPU is an approval. So, but I just want to make sure, Councilor Cooper, that, I mean, is it that one paragraph on page 2, the local approval, that you want updated? Because I can absolutely have that. If there's other ones that are, real specific, I can get those done.
And
But-
if I may, I think that's one, but I think we also should have a broader discussion either as a council tonight or next week, call for
I
a
would
special
suggest
meeting.
if there's a product, we can always, I would like to vote it out of committee tonight. We can further discuss it during a regular meeting. And then if there's a problem there, let's discuss it at the regular committee. We've got these people that I think have answered adequately any questions without getting go over too many things too many times, and you're getting real confused. It was pretty simple for me before, and I think it still is simple in my perception. I'd like to vote it out of committee, discuss it later. We have other people waiting that we're gonna give a proclamation to, and we've kept them waiting an hour to give that proclamation, so I think it's important that we move on with this to later. So at this time, I make a
Can I just
motion.
ask one point of clarification? That's all. I would like to be recognized, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just as a part of our procedure, if we're making changes to this document and we're changing the mayor to somebody else,
I don't think that is. I intend to bring it forward as written.
and if we make an amendment, or we make the recommendation or have that discussion, because that is one of the concerns that some of the counselors have, that we have a question as to who is designated as the signee, or who the individual is, that we would like to have a little bit more control over that. So that's part of the conversation that we can have later. My point of clarification that I would like to have is, who do we submit that to make sure that that gets into this? If, in the event that we get that through council, if we have to take a vote on it, or how would that would work? Because if we can take, this isn't like that's what I need to know. That's the question I have.
The need to know also, as I asked these gentlemen, there is a time concern. Do you want to wait, do you want to wait another, do you want to wait another year to
I did
possibly
not
save
say
the
anything
community?
about waiting another year. If it's a conversation we can have during the full council meeting.
That's
and
what
make
I
it-
just said.
That's fine, but what, I'm still asking the question is, who do we submit those changes to? I'm not throwing names around or anything like that.
The front office has sent this down, I would assume. That was sent down as read
Okay.
And he's asking that we appoint him as.
I'm not
he
debating
signs
the person, I'm just
contracts,
asking
he
the protocol.
negotiates contracts. I think that's the front office's job.
But that is not part of this plan. So designating.
That's right, it's not part of the
Designating a
plan.
person has nothing to do with this plan. This is just this is just satisfying the legal requirement. It doesn't, you don't have to, what I'm saying is you don't have to decide this now.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
We have a couple of months, we're going to be at DPU through the summer.
Okay.
So you have some time.
Time
Thank
to appoint a designee. Yes, Ms. Hagan.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. Just with the parliamentary procedure, even as we say, once we vote something out of committee and it goes to the full council, and President Cook is sitting there, other people could make amendments at that time. And I just want to make sure, as a committee, I know, Mr. Churchill, you and I are on this committee, the motion that we're voting on, can you just read?
You want me to read it again?
Just the motion, yes.
Entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to execute and submit a municipal aggregation plan for electric services to the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities for review and their approval.
Okay, and so one of the clarifications one member had wanted was just that little change, and all I'm saying is maybe in the committee, that little change right there to put what Mr. Cooper had mentioned, if we even just do a quick little amendment in committee, get that through, then once it comes to the full council, we're not gonna spend another 2 hours talking, making amendments,
What?
votes to make an amendment, and
Okay,
then,
Ms. Heckney, what exactly, Mr. Cooper?
It was on page 2.
It's page
the
2.
motion.
The
Yeah.
fact that it says town, we're not a town, we're a city, number
Okay.
1. And it's about having a discussion with other members of the council without sucking up these guys' time and keeping the people that are waiting about, do we want to include another, the mayor and city auditor, or the mayor, or not the mayor at all, the city auditor only? Do we want to talk about having someone else
Would you,
or
would you feel comfortable if it said mayor and city auditor?
Yeah, but I think, I don't.
We discuss that afterwards?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Gentlemen, you're free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just thinking sometimes it's easy to have 3
I
people vote
understand, I
than
understand, Ms.
11.
Heckney. Okay. Is it the consensus? I'm asking for a consensus. Would everybody on the council feel comfortable if we inserted the mayor and the city auditor?
Met's a Met's, I'm comfortable, I don't care. The real issue is, the fail-safe is the people can say no. What we
Yeah,
decide here has
that's-
nothing to do with what they're gonna do.
Yeah. I agree with you, Ron.
I think it does.
Not at all.
I think it does because it will be very transparent about what the potential, making sure that the public is aware of, through Deb's office, her coming down, or the mayor coming down, or them coming down together, telling the public exactly what and where this is in the process. And what he said, they'd know a couple of days before, or, they'd know which way things were going, so they could come down and communicate that to them. I wouldn't want it, I don't want it to get, and, maybe the mayor will commit to doing that. I know he's here, and I know he's coming down. These are the things we can ask him.
All right, well,
So,
let's move it out of committee at this time, and then in between, we'll have a discussion. I'll ask the mayor when he comes down, and if that happens to be agreeable, then we'll bring him forward as an amendment in front of the full council.
sure.
That satisfy everybody? You want me to read this motion over? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you.
Are you gonna adjourn? Oh, did you just?
Yes, I move to adjourn at 7:56. And if I
Second.
could get Frank out here, maybe we won't even call the regular meeting to order, so we can get these people up. Let me get Frank.
I didn't even appreciate me sitting there with my hand up and not being recognized. That guy, 'cause his name
I like the idea they can opt out,
not
opt in when it's
coming
lower.
in, but really does.
I don't
They
believe
haven't covered all their bases. They're at risk, we're not at risk, they're at risk.
Very possible,
I'm gonna make a deal. Public's not gonna buy it. And this is not a good commercial for this program. They gotta come up with a commercial to get to everybody.
You know, it's, guys, because I've already gone this route as an individual, all the questions you're asking, you're gonna have contact numbers, and
A couple of them.
all that will come on your bill.
I'm not
Ask
worried about, I
questions.
get that portion of it. It's-
So we haven't argued that much over money.
There was no arguing, it was discussion.
You can say no.
Well, wait,
When they
it was
come into your
arguments
house, you can
to
say
be
no, I don't want in.
There was
My concern is that,
No matter what we say, it's still up to the people.
you know, he's busy.
And you see the rate is lower 6 months later, you opt out. 6 months later, it's in. You opt in again, and you're locked in for a year and a half at a lower rate.
But it may not be.
Where are you gonna get that information from? You think all this is gonna be passed on? Who's gonna pass it?
Call the meeting to order. What's that?
The big.
Call the council meeting for Tuesday, May 19th, regular meeting to order. I would ask you to please stand and join in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Just a reminder as we sit down to my colleagues as well as those in attendance, the importance of turning off your cell phone as it does interfere with our broadcast to other parts of the city. There are no minutes that to be approved at this time, so we'll be holding that. And as I mentioned to some of the councilors, we have, as you know, there'll be a couple of presentations tonight. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules so that we'll be able to take things out of order. Thank you, the motion's in order. We'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Denley.
Yes.
Mr. Churchill.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau.
Yes.
Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
Mrs. Parika.
Yes.
Ms. Higney.
Yes.
President Cook.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion is approved. We're operating under suspended rules. There are no public hearings that are scheduled for this evening. Just want to make that general announcement. And at this time, one of the reasons for suspending these rules was that we do have a presentation to the Elks. So at this time, I'm going to go to that podium, and we're going to ask Councilor Blair to join me. And then, do you want to bring on people right now? Okay. So there are also representatives of the Elks Club, as well as our Veterans Agent, Carl Bradshaw. I'd ask that they also come up here.
Okay. We usually stand. We'll stand when you do the reading.
Thank you. At this time, we have a proclamation to give our local Attleboro Elks Lodge 1014 this evening. As you know in the past, or hopefully you know, the flags that you see flying around the city come Memorial Day in the stanchions, at the monuments, throughout the city have been annually donated by the Attleboro Elks. Not only is it a tribute to our veterans, but it's a tribute to show that this organization participates in supporting this city, not only in this way, but many ways. Their main motto is "A veteran is never forgotten," and this is a way that they carry that out. So at this time, Frank, if you'd please read the proclamation. Or before that, could I please introduce these gentlemen? Sure. Rob Silver, would you exalted ruler this year, would you please introduce the rest of the...
Yes. David Ranzello is our leading knight. Frank Kearns is our trustee. Larry Qualia is a life member, past exalted ruler, past district deputy, and past esquire, and Carl Bradshaw, obviously, from the Veteran Services.
Thank you, Ron. And thanks again for the donation of those flags. It's an asset to the city, and it's a true tribute to our veterans. The Elks are foremost involved in as our vets.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Frank?
Thank you. And again, on behalf of the City Council, I do want to thank you for your generous donations and for the care and support for our veterans and for all the residents of the city for all that you do in so many ways. And Carl is our veterans agent. I also want to thank you, and we're here as a recipient of a lot of this. And you've had people out decorating the graves in recent days in preparation for this weekend's Memorial Day. So that's a very timely service that we're having, and I really appreciate all that you've done. So I do have a resolution from the council. Resolution of appreciation to Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elks, number 1014. On behalf of the Attleboro Municipal Council and the residents of the city of Attleboro, it is with great pleasure that I extend our heartfelt thanks for your commitment to the city of Attleboro. It is with great pride and enthusiasm that the Attleboro Elks Lodge number 1014 be recognized for your organization's generosity in providing American flags and assistance to our local veterans. Your organization is truly an inspiration to all the residents of Attleboro. Attleboro is a better place because of your actions, and we applaud all your efforts. Once again, thank you for your outstanding community involvement. Your contributions to this community and mankind will live on for many years, and that is signed and sealed this 19th day of May in the year 2015 by myself, Frank Cook, the council president, and by Vice President Peter Blair, and it has the seal of the city on it. So again, thank you for doing that.
Rob would like to say a couple words.
Thank you very much. Carl, the Elks organization has a long-standing history of supporting our military and supporting our veterans. It's something we take great pride in. We're very appreciative for everything you've done for us, what you continue to do to keep us safe. And these flags are just a small token of our appreciation. And again, thank you for everything you do.
Easier than
inside. It might be easier. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Keep up the good work. Thank you for all you do. Excellent work. Keep it up.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you for your patience. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All the best, Carl. You're welcome. Thank you.
Colonel.
I put the flags on the graves,
What? Communication I have.
cemetery next to Street Gate, Tunnel Boulevard. See the name of the cemetery. There's like
Frank already had it.
100 flags in there.
Yes,
We had to ask me, I can't think of it.
Yeah, I can't think of it either.
I have
One
it.
here for Jonathan, so.
Okay, what you do? Yep, thank you.
Put it one shoe length away. Thanks. Just have a second while they work.
Another one. Wait, there's more.
Gonna go like this.
There's more, there's two.
Yeah, right.
For a low price.
Not like when they put their foot up against the grave.
There's lots of extras.
Go away, it's all the same.
This time there's lots of extras.
Okay.
Ah, jeez.
It looks like we have a supplement. Oh, no, I see it.
Mine first, yeah.
Both means communication.
All right, moving on here.
So one will be specific to the budget, one will be a regular communication.
Excuse me.
We're going to go on to a reading of the communications. Again, I'm taking them a little bit out of order, as you'll see the reason in a moment, but I'm going to instead of doing the mayor's communication, I'm going to do the other communication first, because there's a reference in there to an issue or to a matter that's in the mayor's communication, and actually, it's two references. And I need to have the information that's contained in the other communications read first in order to refer something to, for an event this coming. That being the hearings on the budget. So we're going to start with the other communications first this evening. So Ms. Sharkar, if you would.
I have a recommendation from the Attleboro Planning Board recommending in the affirmative 5 yeas, 0 nays, 3 absent to adopt the proposed amendment to certain sections of the zoning ordinance relative to new sections pertaining to bituminous and asphalt plants and concrete plants as follows. Amend section 17-3.4, table of use regulations, wholesale transportation and industrial, and section 17-3.5, table of accessory use regulations, and section 17-11.2, definitions.
Ordinance, Elections, and Legislative Matters Committee, please.
I have a notice of a special meeting to be held on Tuesday, June 9th, 2015, at 7 p.m. for the purpose of holding public hearings relative to the general government, water and wastewater departments for the FY 2016 budgets and any other legal matter that may come before the council.
Copy to all members. You should all receive a copy of that tonight on your desk in your packet. And that is the key reason why I needed to have the other communication read first, because we will be hearing on the budget, and I will be calling for public hearings, but I needed to establish this aspect of it first.
I have a petition from Verizon New England, Inc. and Massachusetts Electric National Grid to relocate joint pole number T 6710/E.6710 on the northeasterly side of Olive Street, approximately 634 feet southeasterly from the center line of Robert Street on Olive Street, to allow for a proposed street. No public hearing is required.
Public Works Committee, please.
I have an application for the following Hackney carriage driver's licenses, one from Andrew James Madden, 216 Knight Avenue, Attleboro, Mass., and one from May Irene Fitton, 140 South Avenue, Attleboro, Mass.
License Committee, please.
I have a communication from Renee Lum regarding the license, requesting that the License Committee hold her hawkers and peddlers license request until she has all the documents necessary to proceed for council approval.
License Committee, please.
And that's all I have this evening.
So we'll go on to the mayor's communication. There's actually two communications to the mayor, so this one is mayor communication number 1.
May 19th, 2015. Dear municipal councilors, I respectfully submit a communication from City Treasurer Ethel Sandbach regarding funds to cover a shortfall in the med tax account. The unexpected salary payment for snow, new hires, unexpected overtime, retro pays, and contractual raises are added costs to this account. In order to meet the payroll for June 30th, 2015, this request needs to be voted on by June 2nd, 2015. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to transfer $25,000 from undesignated fund balance, free cash, general government account to treasurer Medicare tax. There are copies in your packets.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
As you are aware, on November 10th, 2014, your honorable body transferred funds to upgrade the telephone system at City Hall. All expenses for the upgrade to the telephone system have been satisfied and no longer require funding. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to transfer $594.44 from citywide telephone upgrade account to the citywide reserve fund for transfer account. Upon approval, the available balance in the reserve fund for transfer will be $11,525.41.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
I respectfully submit for confirmation by your honorable body the appointment of Jason Gittle, 553 Lindsay Street, to fill an unexpired term on the planning board, term to expire February 2016. There are copies in your packets.
Personnel and Human Services Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from the Director of Recreation, Dennis Welch, regarding the need for funding in the Light and Power due to rate, rate increases. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to transfer $2,600 from recreation lights and power to the following: $350 to recreation night differential, $2,250 to recreation salary and wages. There are copies in your back.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
And I'm sorry, it's the other way around. It's from and to a back,
Yeah, right.
stated them backwards.
Okay.
I respectfully submit a communication from Legal Secretary Allison Wood regarding surplus items that the Park and Forestry Department would like to declare surplus, and hereby respectfully request your honorable body to declare the following as surplus for trade-in or resale value and available for disposition. There are copies in your packet. One Gravely flail motor attachment in poor condition. One Gravely snow blower attachment in poor condition. One Gravely snow blower attachment, poor condition. One 1998 Toro walk-behind mower, poor condition. 1989 Gravely 50-inch walk-behind mower, poor condition. One 1960 Gravely walk-behind plow, Model L, poor condition. One Ford 3 PTH flail mower, poor condition.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I respectfully submit a communication from Personnel Director Owen Bebo and Personnel Consultant Ann Silverman regarding the need to amend the personnel rules and regulations for exempt employees. As you are aware, certain exempt employees are eligible to receive a clothing allowance. Current language states that these employees are to receive this benefit in the same manner as union employees. However, due to changes in the recent union contracts, this clothing allowance has now been built into their base salary, and this cannot be done for exempt employees. Also, the police and fire exempt employees currently receive their clothing allowance in the same manner as the union employees, but it is not codified in our rules and regulations, but is only referenced in the union contract. Therefore, I request your honorable body to amend Article 16, Uniform and Clothing Allowances, as described in the attached personnel rules and regulations for exempt employees in order to properly deal with these two issues, revised May 19th, 2015. There are copies in your packets.
Personnel and Human Services Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Veterans Agent Carl Bradshaw regarding the need for $30,000 in Veterans Aid account for the remainder of FY 2015 due to the tremendous increase in requirements. The last request for funds will not cover the additional expenses. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to appropriate $30,000 from undesignated fund balance free cash account to Veterans Benefits Veterans Aid account. There are copies in your packets.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from City Auditor Deborah Gould regarding our common backyard Briggs Playground project. As you may recall, in July 2014, your honorable body appropriated $415,000 from the stabilization fund for this project, of which the Commonwealth of Massachusetts was to reimburse the city $200,000 from our common backyard grant. In April 2015, the city received these funds from the Commonwealth's Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for this project. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to appropriate $30,000 from our common backyard Briggs Playground Fund, other financing uses, excuse me, to the state.
$200,000.
$200,000.
What did I say?
$30,000.
I'm sorry. $200,000 from our common backyard Briggs Playground Fund, other financing uses, to the stabilization fund, other financing uses, in order to reimburse the stabilization fund. In addition, on October 7th, 2014, an appropriation was granted in the amount of $30,320.55, as well as $10,000 contingency for any unforeseen matter that might arise in the field during construction. There is $1,828.25 remaining in this fund, which is no longer needed for construction. Recreation Director Dennis Walsh identified a need for security cameras for this newly revitalized playground. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body to approve the use of $1,828.25 in Fund Our Common Backyard Briggs Playground to the acquisition of security cameras. There are copies in your packets.
Public Works Committee, please.
For your information, I regret to inform your honorable body, we have received the resignation of Director of Veteran Services, Carl Bradshaw, effective June 6, 2015. Carl has served Attleboro for the past 5.5 years and now has accepted another position in Northbridge, where he currently lives. I know you will join me in thanking Carl for his service to the city and wish him the best in his future endeavors. There are copies in your packets. And it is signed sincerely, Kevin J. Dumas, Mayor.
Thank you. Let's go on to the other reading of the mayor's communication.
May 19th, 2015. Dear municipal councilors, I respectfully submit to your honorable body the City of Attleboro's general government annual budget for fiscal year 2016.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please, and Council Kirby. This matter calls for public hearing on Tuesday, June 9th, 2015.
Yes, Mr. President. That
So
would
we
be
just call for it?
done. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. That's part of the reason why I needed the other communication read first, so that we could be referring this to an item that now has standing before us.
I respectfully request your honorable body, under the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, as amended, to approve the fiscal year 2016, the reauthorization with continuing balances of the following departmental revolving funds in the amounts indicated and with conditions specified.
I'm just going to have you waive the reading of the details. You just give the name of the organization and the expenditure limit.
Animal shelter expenditure limit $6,000. Capron Park Zoo expenditure limit $1,100,000. City property expenditure limit $50,000. Council on Aging expenditure limit $20,000. Fire ambulances expenditure limit $1,100,000. Fire alarm system expenditure limit $40,000. Health immunization expenditure limit $10,000. Parking administration expenditure limit $250,000. Police vehicles expenditure limit $280,000. Police false alarm expenditure limit $50,000. Police canine expenditure limit $10,000. Recreation expenditure limit $175,000. Special disposal expenditure limit $700,000. Protective inspection services expenditure limit $65,000.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
I am pleased to present to your honorable body the proposed wastewater and water enterprise budgets for fiscal year 2016.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please. And Council Kirby, this matter requires a public hearing. Would you like to call for a public hearing on Tuesday, June 9th, 2015?
Yes, Mr. President?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you for the second. The motion's in order. Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. That hearing will be on June the 9th also. Thank you very much.
For your information, we have been able to provide wastewater services at no increased cost in the rate structure. Therefore, there is no need to change the ordinance for the wastewater rate for FY 2016.
That's for your information.
I'm sorry, I hereby request your honorable body to appropriate $193,639.01 from wastewater retained earnings to fund the wastewater betterment share of debt in the FY 2016 budget.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
I hereby request your honorable body to appropriate $100,000 from wastewater retained earnings to fund the FY 2016 wastewater enterprise fund.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
With reference to the Title V Betterment Loan Program, I hereby request your honorable body to appropriate $5,669 from receipts reserved for appropriation Title V Reserve Fund to the General Fund to provide program funding for FY 2016.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
For your information, we have been able to provide water services at no increased cost in the rate structure. Therefore, there is no need to change the ordinance for the water rate in FY 2016. I hereby request your honorable body to appropriate $70,000 from water retained earnings to fund the FY 2016 water enterprise budget.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
I respectfully request your honorable body to approve an appropriation in the amount of $16,514.38 from Water Reserve for Plant Fund to fund the FY 2016 water enterprise budget.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
As you are aware, a portion of the water and wastewater enterprise FY 2016 budgets include an indirect cost allocation that is used to pay for costs incurred within the general government budget. As requested by your honorable body in your FY 2015 message, the city solicited quotes for a new indirect rate study and retained Abrams Group to conduct this new study. In accordance with the indirect rates established by the Abrams Group, I hereby request your honorable body to transfer $688,880.51 from Water Enterprise Fund to General Government Fund to fund the indirect costs for FY 2016. The dollar amount presented is from the FY 2016 budget book. Please note, this figure excludes the water grant reserve and all debt expenses. I also hereby request your honorable body to transfer $586,201.94 from Wastewater Enterprise Fund to General Government Fund to provide funding for the indirect costs for the FY 2016 budget. The dollar amount presented is from the FY 2016 budget book. The required transfer is consistent with all other indirect transfer requests as it excludes the expenses associated with debt and capital purchases.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
For your information, we have been able to provide solid waste collection at no increased cost to the solid waste collection fee. Therefore, there is no need to change the ordinance for the solid waste collection fee, which is $184 for FY 2016. There is a snow deficit of $1,480,251.80 for FY 2015. However, and in order to take advantage of a recently enacted law that authorizes cities and towns to amortize their FY 2015 snow and ice removal account deficits over the next 3 fiscal years in equal installments or more rapidly, I hereby request your honorable body to adopt Chapter 10, Section 58 of the Acts of 2015.
Ordinance, Elections, and Legislative Matters Committee, please.
In order to cover a portion of the FY 2015 snow deficit, I respectfully request your honorable body to appropriate $400,000 from the stabilization fund to the FY 2016 general government, FY 2016 general government budget. It is my intention to return these funds back to the stabilization fund once free cash is certified in the fall of 2015.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 25, the Attleboro Board of Assessors has released $100,000 from the FY 2005 allowance for abatement account and $100,000 from the FY 2006 allowance for abatement account. Please find the enclosed vote of the Board of Assessors releasing $200,000 of available surplus overlay to the city for any lawful purpose. In accordance with the proper procedure, upon release, excess allowance for abatement funds are transferred into the balance reserve for overlay surplus account and can be appropriated for any lawful purpose. Therefore, I respectfully request your honorable body appropriate $100,000 from the general fund balance reserved for overlay surplus to fund balance reserved for expenditures to fund the FY 2016 budget. In the coming weeks, I will send your honorable body an additional request to appropriate the remaining $100,000 currently in the fund balance reserved for overlay surplus.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
I hereby request your honorable body to appropriate $75,000 of available free cash from undesignated fund balance free cash to fund the FY 2016 budget.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
I hereby request your honorable body establish the position of Constituent Services Administrator on the classification plan at grade 4. This position is being created in order to efficiently carry out duties within the mayor's office. As I am sure that you can appreciate, daily the mayor's office serves a variety of individuals and businesses within the community. We all represent as well as matters throughout the Commonwealth that impact the city of Attleboro. In order to efficiently assist people navigate the business of government as well as the city, while constituent services will be a primary focus on this position, I am certain the additional efficiencies throughout the city will be a result of this position, as a point person will provide coordination of services throughout departments. I feel compelled to note that the administrative support staff of the mayor's office already serves our community well. This position is intended to enhance the operations of the office of the mayor and provide much-needed additional support to the office as the constant and always growing demands of the mayor's office cannot continue to be met without the additional permanent support. Please note that as mayor, I consider a variety of options within the organizational structure of the office of the mayor. It is my belief that this position at this time in this fiscal environment is in the best interest of the city as a whole, and I therefore respectfully request the support of your honorable body for the Constituent Services Administrator.
President on Human Services Committee, please.
And it is signed sincerely, Kevin J. Dumas, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. At this time, the mayor is still here. I've asked the mayor to actually make the presentation on the budget and also deal with related matters involving his office. Good evening, Mayor. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Municipal Council. As Mr. Lacasse is handing out the budget, the first one that we're going to go over this evening is the budget for general government, proposed budget from me for fiscal year 2016.
Thank you.
May 19th, 2015, Frank B. Cook, President, Attleboro Municipal Council, regarding fiscal 2016 general government budget. Dear President Cook and honorable municipal councilors, I respectfully submit herewith the City of Attleboro's annual budget for fiscal year 2016. The attached budget totals $121,160,860.64, which represents a 0.48% increase from the fiscal year 2015 revised budget of $120,579,520.87. Although this budget continues to provide level services, it has been one of the most challenging budgets to balance in recent memory, given several factors. First and foremost, this budget reflects my administration's promise to invest in our education system. So for the second year in a row, this budget reflects a school appropriation that is $1 million above the net school spending requirement. That level of funding is unprecedented in Attleboro, and I am proud that your honorable body supported that commitment in this current year, fiscal 2015. And I ask that you join with me as we continue that level of investment into fiscal 2016. In addition, this budget reflects a school transportation budget that is more in line with not only contractual obligations, but is also more reasonable projections for the ever-increasing cost of out-of-district special education and homeless McKinney-Vento transportation. Finally, and while I understand and appreciate the school committee's role in requesting a nearly $74 million budget, including transportation, the additional $4.6 million it seeks simply does not exist. And again, I'm going to highlight, simply does not exist. So just to put that dollar value into perspective, the city would have to close the Department of Council on Aging, the Veterans Department, the Public Library, the Recreation Department, and the entire Park and Forestry Department, including the zoo, and that would still leave a $458,000 shortfall. Just to put that into perspective for all of you. So many, many hours and a great deal of effort have gone into preparing a budget that reasonably, responsibly, and realistically continues many citywide services that citizens have come to expect and enjoy. And I hope that you will join me in thanking the members of my staff and those department heads who do recognize the reality of limited funds. Second, the time has come for the Commonwealth to re-examine how it funds our educational needs. Under the Education Reform Act, passed back in 1993, the Commonwealth has been using a formula for distributing aid to local school districts. Many, including myself, feel the formula is outdated and fails to take into consideration factors that have emerged since 1993. I now sit on the Foundation Budget Review Commission, whose 21-member charge is to review the way in which foundation budgets are calculated and to make recommendations to the General Court regarding changes that may be appropriate. I remain hopeful that the recommendations of the Foundation Budget Review Commission and the legislature's adoption of those recommendations will result in a new funding formula that will have a positive impact on cities like Attleboro in fiscal 2017. Third, and as we all remember all too well, this past winter brought a record-breaking snowfall and corresponding cost of snow and ice removal. Between January 26th and January 28th, 2015, the city of Attleboro, like most cities and towns in Massachusetts, experienced a snowstorm so severe that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Federal Emergency Management Agency declared it a federal disaster event. And although that the city will seek as much federal disaster relief for that event as possible, we are told that the most that we can recapture is 75% of a single 48-hour period in that one event. Those limited reimbursement funds pale in the light of the fact that January 26, 2015 event was just the beginning of an unprecedented 28-day weather event that would bring record snowfall and bitter cold temperatures to the Commonwealth. All told, the city of Attleboro spent over $1.4 million on snow and ice removal in fiscal 2015. Recognizing the devastating effect of these snow removal costs would have on the operating budgets of our cities and towns, the Massachusetts legislature provided an opportunity that would allow municipalities to amortize their fiscal 15 snow and ice removal account deficits over the next 3 fiscal years in equal installments or more rapidly. I sincerely believe that it's in the best interest for us to take advantage of this opportunity, and I ask your support in adopting Chapter 10, Section 58 of the Acts of 2015 to make that a reality. This budget is focused on that and only funds 1/3 of that deficit, and it's notated on the beginning sheets that you'll see. Fourth, this budget reflects the reality of the ever-increasing cost of health insurance. So nevertheless, I am relatively pleased that we have managed to hold this year's overall health insurance increases to single digits at a time when many other cities and towns are experiencing double-digit rate increases. And I appreciate the cooperation shown by employees to help manage those costs in the most efficient manner possible. But to help offset the budgetary impact of our school investments that we just mentioned, and the snow deficit in particular, I'm recommending that the city temporarily utilize $400,000 from our stabilization fund, and it is my intention, as I have done in the past, to return these funds back to the stabilization fund once free cash is certified in the fall. This budget also reflects several important changes that are designed to help provide our services more efficiently. In the mayor's department, for example, you will see a $45,000 reduction in the city solicitor account. These savings reflect my intention to bring the current city solicitor, Bob Mangiarotti, here to City Hall on a full-time basis. This is an exciting opportunity for the city, and I'm very much looking forward to having the efficiency of having Attorney Mangiarotti and his presence here at City Hall as part of our full-time staff. On a more global basis, we also took a critical look at several of our revolving funds to determine whether their successes could provide an opportunity to shift some expenses that have been, up to now, covered by the general fund. Under the Parking Enforcement Department in the general government budget, you will see a savings of $10,000, which represents the shifting of the Parking Enforcement Services, ComPlus, to the Parking Administration Revolving Fund. Similarly, in the Park and Forestry Department, this budget reflects the shifting of the Zoo Director's position fully to the Zoo Revolving Fund. Finally, in the Fire Department, this budget also reflects the shifting of the full-time ALS Director position to the Fire Ambulances Revolving Fund. These changes help lower city government expenses without negatively affecting services to the citizens as requested by your honorable body's fiscal 2015 budget message. In addition, these changes help continue the goal of making our revolving funds more self-sustaining. This budget also contains the results of a new indirect cost study as recommended by your honorable body, also in your fiscal 2015 budget message. And after a comparative procurement, the city hired the Abrahams Group to prepare a cost allocation plan, and after a comprehensive process, which included in-person meetings with staff and from virtually every department, as well as an in-depth review of the city's financial data, the Abrahams Group produced one of the most detailed and comprehensive reports I can recall. And although the new indirect rates have been calculated and applied to this budget, the final report is still being formatted and will be reviewed for public review by the end of the week. I am also pleased to submit a budget that requires no increase in our solid waste collection program for fiscal 2016. This program, in addition to many other qualities of life programs and services provided under this budget, remain the hallmark of what it means to live in Attleboro. Citizens need not to travel very far from their homes to see the incredible progress that we have here in Attleboro. Whether it's a new private development happening in South Attleboro or in downtown Attleboro, and soon the Industrial Business Park and the municipal improvements on Riverfront Drive, the new DPW storage and maintenance facility, or the new roadway improvements at Tiffany Street and South Avenue, we continue to move Attleboro forward. Finally, I'm sure you will join me as we open the new city's animal shelter on Pond Street North and the new concession stand at Attleboro High School. I end my message tonight in the same way that I begun it. The fiscal 2016 budget has been one of the most challenging budgets that I have submitted to your honorable body, and as you will see over the next coming weeks. But one thing has remained true in all of my budget recommendations. I, like you, believe in Attleboro, and I believe in Blue Pride. So while other communities face significant budget crises, cut back in services, and seek Proposition 2.5 overrides, I am proud that we in Attleboro continue to find new ways to responsibly move this great city forward, while never forgetting that we must live within our economic means. To that end, I wish to publicly thank your honorable body, as well as the many other dedicated employees who made this budget possible, as well as the employees who make the city great every day. Respectfully submitted, Kevin J. Dumas, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, for your work on developing the budget, and then for appearing tonight to read your cover letter to us, and to provide us each with a copy of this. And for the general public's information, and as councilors know, we'll be beginning the process under the guidance of the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, meeting with department heads and beginning the evaluation process on Thursday of this week. We'll begin the process. And as you probably heard, we have called for a public hearing on this matter on Tuesday, June the 9th. So this is the beginning of our very busy season, as you know. At this time, are there any, Mayor, would you be, before you go into the water and wastewater budgets, is there anything additional you'd like to say in the budget, or would you like to just read that one and then deal with it all at one time?
I'd like to deal with it all at one time, if that's
Okay.
fine, Mr.
We'll
President.
go on with the reading of the wastewater message and water message, please.
Also today, dated May 19, 2015, to the Council President regarding the fiscal 2016 enterprise fund budgets. Dear President Cook and honorable municipal councilors, in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half of the Massachusetts General Laws, I am pleased to submit herewith my proposed fiscal 2016 water enterprise budget of $6,424,658.34 and wastewater enterprise budget of $9,849,117.72. I am pleased to report that the fiscal 2016 water enterprise budget represents a 6.87% decrease from the fiscal 2015 revised budget, and that there will be no need for a water rate adjustment in fiscal year 2016. This decrease is largely due to the use of retained earnings during the year to help move several capital projects forward, including the Wading River East and West Basins that represented $328,607, the purchase of a safety trailer and a heavy truck totaling $71,274, the replacement of 1,100 water meters, $237,000, and the design of a new water maintenance building at $88,000, among others. In December of 2014, your honorable body approved the $4.9 million loan authorization to complete the necessary repairs to the city's west and east basins at the Wading River Pumping Station located in Mansfield. I am pleased to report that the repairs are now approximately 70% complete. Once fully online, the city must provide for the proper upkeep and maintenance of these wells to ensure that they will operate as efficiently as possible. Therefore, future water department budgets will require a line item specifically for the maintenance of these wells. The Hoppin Hill Dam Repair Project also continues to progress. The design is substantially complete and permitting has begun. In addition, I'm also pleased to report that our favorable balance in the water retained earnings allows us to utilize a modest amount to help maintain the current water rate with no increase. So to achieve this objective, an appropriation is therefore requested in the amount of $70,000 from water retained earnings. In fiscal 2016, we finally reached the end of the need for the water grant reserve. So congratulations are in order to your honorable body for supporting the policy of annually raising and placing aside funds for this water grant reserve. Had you not supported the establishment of this reserve many years ago, the water rate would have been burdened by an additional $16,514.38 of debt this specific year. An appropriation is therefore requested in the amount of $16,514.38 from the Water Grant Reserve to subsidize the fiscal 2016 Water Enterprise Fund budget. I'm also pleased to report that the fiscal 2016 wastewater enterprise budget represents a 0.35% decrease from the revised 15 budget, and that there will be no need for a wastewater rate adjustment in fiscal 2016. Similar to the water department, this decrease reflects the use of retained earnings during the year to help move several capital improvements forward, including the replacement of an F-350 truck, the design and engineering services to replace a sewer main on Brownell Street, design services for upgrades to the nitrogen pilot plant, as well as the reimbursement for its percentage share of water meters for the water department. The fiscal 2016 wastewater department debt section reflects a decrease of $67,120.36, or 1.454% in total debt service. In the upcoming months, my administration will be putting forth a plan for the new required sludge landfill project for your consideration. As with the water department, I'm also pleased to report of our favorable balance in the wastewater retained earnings that allows us to utilize a modest amount to help maintain the current wastewater rate with no increase. So to achieve this objective, an appropriation is therefore requested in the amount of $100,000 from wastewater retained earnings. I strongly believe that the rates we set forth in each one of these enterprise funds should be true to the conservative philosophy of enterprise funding. That is, to fully fund the expenses anticipated in a given year, and moreover, operate the funds so they're solvent, truly solvent. As I mentioned in my general government Met budget message, these enterprise fund budgets reflect the results of the new cost study as recommended by your honorable body in your fiscal 2015 budget message. And after a competitive procurement process, the city hired the Abrahams Group to prepare a cost allocation plan. After a comprehensive process, which included in-person meetings with staff from virtually every department, as well as an in-depth review of the city's financial data, the Abrahams Group produced one of the most detailed and comprehensive reports I can recall. Although the new indirect rates have been calculated and applied to these budgets, the final report will be finished this week. We have and will continue to carefully scrutinize all the expenditures by these two enterprise departments. I want to express to the public that we're ever mindful to curb expenses as much as possible that lead to the least rate increase possible. As these enterprise fund budgets reflect, we have been able to continue to provide valuable water and wastewater services without an increase for either rates in fiscal 2016. The continued financial viability of these two vital municipal services depends on our skillful and forthright stewardship. I look forward to discussing these budgets with your honorable body. Respectfully submitted, Kevin J. Dumas, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I answer any questions, and as you mentioned, we will be beginning a series of weekly meetings with department heads, which I'm sure we'll get into, as always, the details of these items. But I was wondering if you had any general comments that you want to make about this before I answer any questions?
The specific comments, Mr. President, are specifically in the budget message themselves, are the things that I felt were important to highlight, specifically as it related to things that change, things that are pointed out, or things that I wanted to make sure that were highlighted as a result not only of your fiscal 2015 budget message, but also to be able to highlight some of those things and what we're dealing with. And this is a very, very, very difficult budget. So I want to be able to make sure to express to everyone that we've done and working with every department the best that we could. And I think it's a fair representation for the stewardship of the services that we provide to the public and for the 43,000 people that I and you represent. And that I certainly think that knowing where we are tonight in May, before you know it, we will be at the end of June. We'll be here before you know it. But I look forward to be able to be here with Mr. Lacasse and other departments throughout the budget process. And I look forward to the spirited discussion. So.
Okay, thank you. So that's it. Are there any, again, I know we'll be getting into more of the detail later, but are there any at this time, any general concerns or questions for the mayor relative to this item? Mr. Bentley?
I would just say kudos to you and Mr. Lacasse. I think you're a math wizard who can do things with numbers that no one else can. But I'll just say a couple things I really, really like. No solid waste rate increase, no water rate increase, no wastewater rate increase. A new indirect cost study, thank you. That's awesome. A total 0.48% increase in the budget. We're not even approaching Prop 2.5, which is lovely. A 6.87% decrease in the water enterprise budget and a 0.35% decrease in wastewater enterprise. I look forward to digging into these numbers, and I like what I see on the surface, so thank you so much for all of your hard work.
Just to, if I may, Mr. President, I don't want, if we look at the, after the budget message itself, if you're in general government, if you look down to the bottom where it talks about total receipts, you will see that the estimated receipts are made up of a couple of different things. It's made up predominantly of our local receipts, in addition to state aid, which represents about 56.6 million. And that's the number that's located at the bottom of that expenditure and revenue total sheet. The other two amounts that you'll see right above that amount are the 64.1 million and the 375,000. So the property tax that's levied in the amount of $64,172,244.70 includes the full 2.5% on the tax levy. The 375,000 is the anticipated new tax growth and working with the chief assessor in the assessors department of what his reasonable estimates are for us to be able to have that on top of that. So those two things, plus state aid, plus our local receipts, and some other items that are listed here, come up for the total budget of the 121.1 million. And that's encompassed of all of our city departments, including the schools. And I think what's really important is the fact that looking at the challenges that we have and the challenges that we continue to go through, that I'm very proud of the work that the departments have done, because not only dealing with snow, not only dealing with keeping our $1 million above the required minimum spending for schools is a Herculean task. It would certainly be very easy not to be able to go through and to do that, and to not use the $400,000 as proposed from the City Stabilization Fund. It would be very easy to do that and not take the money out, but we have made that commitment that we wanted to do that as best as we could, and those are the discussions that me and Mr. Lacasse had with the school committee superintendent, and to be able to understand what we had up against us, and I think that that's very important. So it was a very large hill to climb, that's for sure.
Thank you. Councilor Kirby and then Councilor Hagman. Councilor Kirby, please.
Thank you. Mayor and Barry, I want to thank you for bringing the budget down on May 19th. This is far earlier than we've had it in the past. I think it gives us, in the past we've had to go through requested budgets rather than numbers after they've gone through your office. So we can look at bottom lines and understand and go with final questions. So I really appreciate the fact that we have a budget book. It's down as one of the earliest that we've had it down, and I want to thank you and your department for all the work. I know you've had late nights here, and your staff, living on coffee and whatnot. So I do appreciate all that your staff has done to present this to us, and keeping it balanced and working out the numbers to really bring a budget that was difficult. I can tell by your statements. And we've had difficult budgets for going on 10 to 12 years. And to hear you say that this was even more difficult, it's going to be interesting to dig into the numbers, but I want to thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, if I may, one of the things that I think is very important is that we cannot continue just to depend on somebody else. We've kind of had these discussions throughout council updates this year, and different opportunities that we've had for discussions individually as well. I think the administration has done a really great job to be able to look at pushing the city forward, looking at redevelopment opportunities, leveraging state and federal dollars to our maximum abilities of what we have to do. Because we're trying to initiate projects in underutilized areas where it's not giving us but limited tax revenue, and turning it into something that creates even more tax revenue that would be in excess of, for example, $375,000 this year. So the things that we're focused on specifically in the transit-oriented development district, where Koognali 1 is, where Koognali 2 will be, and the rest of the area down to the Olive Street Bridge, those are the development opportunities that we're investing in that will then yield greater tax dollars that help us on top of what the limited funds that the state does choose to give to us. We're investing in ourselves to help create further wealth for the city long term. If we didn't do those things, and if we didn't invest in those opportunities, those things just don't happen on their own. Sure, will there be some commercial development in South Attleboro? Of course. But are you going to have these people come in and do all these other things on their own? No, they're challenging. There are different types of things that are involved where municipalities can do things and the private sector cannot. So we're really focused on those types of things, and I talked about that publicly a little bit about a week ago at another event, and I really believe that that's something that's very, very important. However, I think it's important for everyone to know that we are maximized on our staff, and the work continues to come in, and I applaud the work that the staff has done, but it does create a significant amount of workload for everybody else. On those projects that I'm talking about now, but also the projects that we embark on that we will talk later in fiscal 16 about. I already have an aggressive agenda for fiscal 16 for calendar 2016 and calendar 2017 that are going to help leapfrog us further in the development. And I just want to say some of those things that are going to be dealt with that help issues like what we're dealing with in 16, in 17 and 18. So we're looking forward for another year or two down the line, are the redevelopment of the Union Street block. So the block that's just outside these walls here, the city will be looking with the redevelopment authority to partner with a private developer and to be able to redevelop half the block. We're working with another developer privately to develop the other half of the block. So within a couple of years, it looks like that whole block will be entirely redeveloped, and that's something that we hear from our constituency all the time. We're looking at those projects. The Kanata building across in the Sun Chronicle has been sold. There's going to be a proposal that's coming before the zoning board very shortly to be able to redevelop that entire building. So the downtown continues to change, but I just want to emphasize those things don't happen. It's because of the catalyst of the other projects that we have going on to help spur those things. So we're looking not only for what we're doing today and not just submitting the budget, but we're also focused on the long-term wealth that we can create for ourselves. No one's going to just give these things to us. We have to work for them. I'm willing to put that work in. We have dedicated staff to help us do that too. I'm very proud of, but it's a Herculean task. And I just ask that the council recognize how much work's going into that will lead to the long-term benefit of the city getting extra wealth for the strong arm muscle that we're putting into this, Mr. Clean, and all the scrubbing and working that we're doing to be able to turn around and yield something better. And I just think that's important because you're not here every day, so you're not experiencing all of those policy discussions and those things that we're working on, but we're very committed and we're looking a couple years out of the projects that we're working on and when we expect them to yield some fruit. So,
very good.
Thank you. Councilor Hagney had non-verbally indicated to me that her question had been answered. So, are there any other
I
concerns?
just want to say thank you to Barry, though, and your team, because I know, as one counselor said, it's not just you. You have a team of people, and it's your ability to listen to them. And whenever I go up to Barry, his spreadsheets, he can click on and give me to the second updates on every line. So it's not, it's a task that's taken by many. So thank you.
Okay, good.
Okay, any other, Councilor Thibodeau?
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Mayor, thank you very much for coming in with so much good news tonight. It's really a very, very positive budget that you've given us tonight to work with, and I truly appreciate that. The question that I wanted to ask you is in reference to the overlay surplus account.
Sure.
Wondering if, since the Board of Assessors is releasing overlay balances from fiscal year 2005 all the way up to, I think it was some that's going into 2016 budget. What I was wondering was, do you think it's possible for us to increase the amount for the senior abatement program from, believe it's currently at 600 now? If we were to, taking into consideration that the funding for that comes from the assessor's overlay accounts, if we have $100,000 per se, I know that money is there in case their department needs to hire legal folks to fight things that go on in that department.
Sure.
We understand that. But I'm just wondering if, because of these surpluses, would it be possible for us to bump that up, not to the limit that the state allows, which is $1,000, but at least bring it up higher than the 600 that we have now for the 100 or so participants that we have within the community, that really helps them to hold on to their homes and remain residents in the city?
To answer that specifically, we'll look into that, Mr. Thibodeau. The new program year will be coming up as we approach through the summer into the fall. I always like to have that conversation with Madeline McNeely, and we also, of course, have to have that discussion with the chief assessor. One of the things that is difficult, that comes out of that current year overlay. So right now, the assessor has decreased the amount that he has requested for fiscal year 2016 to help us with this budgetary issue as we move through right now. That doesn't mean that the answer is no. There could be a variety of things that are part of that discussion. We can look at the number of plan participants. If there aren't as many participants because of people getting older in age and maybe not being able to do some of the specific work, if it's smaller, then we could look at maybe bumping up the dollar value there. If some receipts come in higher, we could ask for your honorable body to have an appropriation to put into the overlay. So we could reserve a certain amount. There's that opportunity that we can look at too. But I will certainly have those conversations with Madeline, and I will have them with the chief assessor as we'll move forward for that. I'll make an honest effort for that. Previously to you making this discussion tonight, I know that Councilor Conti had a discussion with me, I think it was last fall. And so we had already started the program year. But that's the second request, so I promise you I will have that discussion. The other thing on that is, you're welcome. The other thing on the overlay, just so you know, there's going to be another one coming down. They freed up more than that. So from those old years, they freed up $200,000 total now, and they're going to be freeing up an additional $100,000. So there's $200,000 worth of uncollectible personal property that we're going to be clearing off the books. So there was a joint project by the chief assessor, by the city collector, and by the city auditor to clear up a whole bunch of uncollected personal property tax bills that they can wipe off the books. That jointly they worked on that. That's going to be coming down as well. So they actually freed up a total. It's going to be a total of 300, of which 100's being used for this purpose. 200's going towards old personal property tax bills that date back many fiscal years. They're cleaning the books. And $25,000 for legal services, and I think there's a remaining $14,900 and change think it's $14,930 and change that'll be coming to, back to the reserve fund for transfer. But that'll be coming up at your next communication. You'll see that come down. So I just wanted, you see one now, but there is going to be another one. But I will certainly have that on a discussion with both Madeline McNeely and with Stan Asowitz.
Thank you for that and for the added information as well.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions for the mayor? Hearing none, anything else, Mr. Mayor, that you need to present, or?
I think that's it. Again, and I appreciate Councilor Hegney and all of you. This is not an easy process because the world continues to turn. Everything else still has to get done, and it's predominantly just me and Barry, and that's a lot of difficult lifting to do in the midst of still doing city business. So I appreciate that to Barry, because Barry a lot of times is just closing his door just to focus and stop being interrupted by people and telephone calls, just so he can have that independent thought process, which is very important. But we have a lot of responsibility on our shoulders with many hats to wear. So I do appreciate the kudos to him, because he certainly is worth his weight in gold, so I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Thank you, Barry, also for your work, and the mayor for your, to your staff also for putting this all together. So
Thank you very much.
appreciate it. Looking forward to the regular meetings here.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
See you Thursday.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to go into the committee of the whole.
Second?
Thank you. The motion's in order. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. We're now on the committee of the whole. If there's anyone here who has business bring to the attention of the city council involved in the city, now would be the appropriate time. Let's see, over there. Seeing,
I missed one communication for Betty that needs to be read into the record at some point.
just pass it on. Seeing that no one is coming forward, I would entertain a motion to arise.
Second?
Thank you. The motion is in order. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We're now back to the regular business. The next we need to move into is committee reports. I don't know if anybody, I need to get some signatures. I don't know if anybody needs a recess for that purpose. Okay, then I'm going to entertain a motion for recess. We'll reconvene at 9:10, which is in 7 minutes. All those, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We're in recess at 9:03. Thank you.
present first, huh?
Yeah,
Well, they're
okay,
coming,
there
they're
we go.
coming, slowly but surely. I see 3 on the run here.
All right.
I was backing that thing up. Watch out.
Funny.
That's where most accidents happen, you know, when you back up.
Let's see. Personnel,
So many jokes.
budget. Licensing. We all set?
Actually packing my bus with the
Sorry, looking at the budget.
And he's like,
You what?
That was good.
All right. Call the council meeting back to order at 9:12. And we will be proceeding on, first item that I have to mention is that there was one additional item on the other communication, which we need to read into the record. So Ms. Chaco, I recognize you at this time, please.
Received an application from the Attleboro Zoning Board of Appeals relative to amending certain sections pertaining to the floodplain district of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro, specifically section 17-12.1, general relative to map panel numbers and date. Section 17-12.2, definitions, mean, seal, level, and floodway. And 17-12.63A3A. Special permits by deleting the reference to 120G of the State Building Code 780 CMR.
Ordinance, Elections, and Legislative Matters Committee, please, and also to the Planning Board for setting recommendation. And Councilor Denley, this matter requires a joint public hearing of the Planning Board. Would you like to call for a joint public hearing on Tuesday, June 2nd?
Yes, sir.
Second?
Thank you. The motion, thank you for the second. The motion is in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That hearing will be on that date. And that was the only other thing we had to add, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm just making note of that. So this time we'll go on to the committee reports, and we will begin this evening, as always, with Councilor Denley, please.
Thank you, President Cook.
You're welcome.
Reporting for the Committee on Ordinances, Elections, and Legislative Matters. I have one motion for a public hearing from the docket of May 19th, 2015. I move to hold a public hearing on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2015, to amend the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro by inserting a new section, 11-18, nicotine delivery products.
Second?
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
No, this is just calling for a public hearing, and I will, if this passes, I will make sure to email the mayor, the police chief, and Dr. Quinn to invite them to the public hearing.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you, President Cook. That is all the business I have for tonight. I'd like to call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Churchill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two motions this evening from the Licensing Committee. From the docket of May 19th, 2015, I move to approve the application of a 2015 Hackney Carriage Public Stand License from Hool's Cab Company, 70 Park Street, Attleboro, Mass., for 9 cabs.
Second?
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
No, sir. As you know, we've reviewed the applications as far as getting fingerprinted and so forth. I believe this is just his license to operate his cab company, which is just a renewal.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
I move from the docket of May 19th, 2015, I move to approve the following applications for renewal Hackney carriage licenses from the following individuals: James David Bill Black, 37 Pleasant Street, number 6, Norton, Mass. Jeffrey A. Hunt, 53 Emery Street, Attleboro, Mass. Carol Elizabeth Smith, 38 North Main Street, Attleboro, Mass. Jeffrey C. Falasso, 65 North Main Street, Post Office Box 12, Attleboro, Mass. Kathleen A. Cade Bix, 168 North Main Street, Attleboro, Mass. And Dennis R. O'Donnell, 126 Wilmot Street, Attleboro, Mass.
Second?
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any additional comments?
Mr. President, these names came out in committee. They have all, they're all renewals. They made applications with city clerk, and their fingerprints from the previous renewals stand. And I believe statutory clearances were completed on all these individuals also.
Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all I have from Licensing Committee. I call for a subcommittee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Conti.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Reporting for the Capital Improvements and City Development Committee, I have two motions for the council this evening. From the docket of May 19th, 2015, I move to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $92,172.53 from the water enterprise-related earnings account to the water meter supplies account to cover the cost of 950 water meters that were installed at locations with water and sewer accounts.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
Not much of the comments, Mr. President. This is a rather routine motion to cover a policy that we've held for several years to fairly and equitably distribute the cost of the water meters. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Hegney.
Miss Agnew?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Denley?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes.
From the docket of May 19th, 2015, I move to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $22,220 from the Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings account to the Water Enterprise Fund professional services account to upgrade the electrical service at the water plant.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
Mr. President, I, along with the rest of the councils, are delighted to hear that there will be no escalation in the water rate next year. This is a routine maintenance item of $22,000 to bring electrical service to protect the workers in a routine operation to clear tanks and to provide electricity to the back of the plant. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Denley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome.
That concludes the business the Capital Improvements and City Development Committee has to bring before the council this evening. We look forward to a committee meeting at the next available time.
Thank you. Councilor Kirby.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Reporting for budget and appropriations from the docket of May 19th, 2015. I move to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $94,543.19 from citywide reserve fund for compensation 53rd week and appropriate $40,311.85 from the undesignated fund balance free cash to accounts as follows: $594.88 to council salary, $3,170.47 to account mayor salary and wages, $987.54 to budget and administration salary, $775 to auditor salary and wages, $842.30 to assessor salary, $1,001.86 to collector salary, $1,779.91 to clerk salary, $1,134.71 to planning and land use salary, $54,025.71 to police salary, $39.68 to parking enforcement salary, $53,250 to fire salary and wages, $2,875.54 to protective inspection salary and wages, $340.04 to animal control salary, $7,935.91 public works salary, $2,851.38 to health salary, $2,339.69 to council on aging salary and wages, and $910.42 to veterans salary.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments?
Yes, Mr. President. Let me just get Mr. Thibodeau's name down. Last week, there was a question. First of all, we did put aside money into a 53rd reserve for 53rd pay week. It's an approximation, and it doesn't usually cover the amounts required to cover. So we do need to do some transfers over. So that's where the 40,000 comes from for undesignated balance free cash. And these accounts do not include water and wastewater because they're enterprise budgets. What was asked of me last week, and I asked right away on Tuesday, and I even spoke with Barry on Tuesday, but I didn't get the information until today. So that's why I have it in my hand. So I'm going to give each of you your police and fire request for information for, there's 3 fire, and I'll explain what I'm giving you in just a second so that you can digest it more easily. I'm going to keep one for myself, and then this will go this way. I believe there's one there for Betty as well. The question regarding the transfers regarding the 53rd pay week.
Order, I have to walk away and abstain.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
didn't want to interrupt you.
But thank you, Ms. Hagney, I apologize.
Let the record show that she is abstaining from and has left Council Chambers from this discussion. Oh, Benny.
Okay. So, the question was asked to both chiefs. So if I look at the police chief's response first, he gives the response that there are 14 fewer officers on the streets at this time, 10 because there's recruits at the academy, 1 is a vacancy due to a promotion, and there are 3 officers currently deployed on full military active duty. And there are other comments there. There is a line down on the bottom that I've included. That was the email. The line that says police overtime account, fiscal year 2015 budget, what was budgeted was $260,000. Transfers into overtime from all sources was $254,665.82 for a current total overtime budget for this at this point in the fiscal year, $514,665.82. On the back is the total document that Barry handed me and said, this is where the information is. So you can see fiscal year 2015, fiscal year 2014, 2013, 2012. There's nothing in 2016 because it wasn't presented at the time that this came out. So you can see over the years, and I did blow this. This was half the size. So if you complain about the size, understand that that wasn't the original size. So I did try to make it bigger for you, but it is small, and I understand that. But it'll give you an idea of how much has been transferred over the years. There is significantly more transferred this year than past years. Same goes true for the fire department, which again, the top is the email from the fire chief stating how he has tried to hire over the past year, that we can currently still have 3 firefighters short. He's had problems filling those positions with qualified applicants, and it says we are still short 3 firefighters, and realistically we'll be short for a while. There are 2 firefighters for long-term IOD, and it gives you how much it costs in overtime over the current salaries. So at the bottom, I added, on the bottom, fire overtime, again, this is just for this fiscal year, that we budgeted $490,000 in overtime. Transfers into overtime from all sources was $362,075.40, for a total of $852,075.40 in overtime. And on the back, again, is the overall overtime transfer amounts for the last 4 years.
Did he say how much in the 1.1 million in the revolving account was used for overtime?
He did not.
Okay.
And I asked for overtime, but I did not ask for the revolving.
So I'm assuming that if I may, sir, that the transfers came from unfunded positions?
Yes.
That was my concern. So even with that transfer, they're still short.
Well, but again, this is not, this is in order to pay for the portion of the 1 week that we still have to pay the people that are on duty. So, because of the few days that we have of the 53rd pay week. So that they're gonna be working, we need to pay them during that time.
I understand that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is the extra salary monies from the unfunded positions has already been spent, so they have to ask for the additional
Yes.
money. Okay.
Council
Thank
Blair?
you.
Yeah,
okay.
I think Mr. Churchill just asked the question I used to ask him every time he sat up there.
You certainly did.
Huh?
Yeah, I got taken over the coals many times on this 53rd week. I understand where it's coming from. I wanted to, my concern was, you know, when the budget comes up, it looks like the fire department has spent almost $2 million in overtime this year. If you count the revolving account, because they didn't buy a rescue.
That's what I wanted
So when he brings it before us, we need to understand that. It's probably gonna last another year like that.
This overtime amount that's at the bottom, 852,000, that isn't a true overtime, because overtime is taken out of our revolving ambulance account.
Yes, it is.
So, in comparison to the police department's total of 514, that's pretty much
Accurate. Correct.
852,000 is not accurate, and you asked the question that I would have asked, is how much come out of the revolving account? What was the true overtime spent on the fire department?
When he comes before us, we can ask him how much was spent on other things, because they're allowed, now you notice, the EMS officer is now gonna come out of that revolving account. So it's gonna affect his spending next year. He may need more money than he's realistically, it's gonna be almost the same as it is now.
I just wanted that brought out, because if you start comparing overtimes in police and fire, that's not a true account on a fire department as opposed to
Thank you,
a
Mr.
more
Kirby.
accurate account.
I
tried to get you a little bit of
Just getting an idea how much they've spent. It's a lot of money.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Excuse
If I
me.
may follow up. I wish I'd been able to get that to you earlier. I had thought it was gonna come earlier, but I did go up and I was able to put it together. And understand it was in 3 different documents, and I tried to whittle it down to have it be as understandable as possible.
I mean, regardless, they need it, it's just, we need to know how much is being spent.
I agree.
Because next year's budget's coming before us.
Any other questions? Councilor Thibodeau?
If I can, through the chair, if I may, Mr. Blair, the police overtime account right now is not true as well, due to the transfers that have been made for the janitorial services. We spent $8,000 some odd dollars. We got another request for $7,000 and more dollars, and maybe more to come. So
I understand that, Mr. Thibodeau, but in relativity, the 514 is much closer to realistic than what you see on the back of the fire department.
well, it may be more realistic, but it's still
Not
not.
accurate.
It's not accurate.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all I want.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments?
Bless you.
Okay. Hearing none, this one requires a roll call vote. I just want to note that Councilor Higney will be abstaining from this vote, as she abstained from the discussion. And we'll have a roll call vote, and we'll begin with Councilor Parika.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Denley?
Yes?
President Cook?
Yes.
9 yeas, 1 abstention.
The motion
0
passes.
nays. Sorry.
Thank you.
And Ms. Higney should be coming back. Okay, so that was a 9-0-1 vote. Okay, you want,
I didn't know if you want me, okay.
yeah, why don't you
From the docket of May 19th, 2015, I move to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $14,835.57 from wastewater reserve for 53rd week and appropriate $756.09 from account wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to the wastewater enterprise fund salaries.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
Again, this is to transfer money for the 53rd pay week for wastewater.
One. Okay. Okay, are there any other concerns or comments on this? Any questions? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Denley?
Yes?
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of May 19th, 2015, I move to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $11,165.11 from the Water Enterprise Fund reserve for 53rd week to account Water Enterprise Fund salaries.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
Again, this is for 53rd pay week for the water department.
For the which department?
This
For the
is-
water.
This is Water Department.
Okay. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Hegney.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Denley?
Yes?
President Cook?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
The motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of May 19th, 2015, I move pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 184, Section 32, and Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8C, to approve the grant by the Attleboro Conservation Commission of a conservation restriction more fully described in the document set forth as Attachment A, which is in my materials down here. Conservation restriction to the Mass Audubon and Attleboro Land Trust Handy Street Conservation Area, to the Attleboro Land Trust Incorporated and the Massachusetts Audubon Society Incorporated on 2 parcels of land located in the city of Attleboro, Massachusetts, as described in deeds recorded in Book 21685, page 270, and Book 21685, page 274, in the Bristol North District Registry of Deeds. Further, that the municipal council, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, hereby approve the acceptance by the Attleboro Conservation Commission of $25,000 paid in consideration of the above referenced conservation restriction.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments?
We talked about this in committee last week. This is the 80-some-odd acres off of Handy Street with a permanent conservation restriction to be able to be used for passive recreation. This has been in the works for quite a while. We've been able to secure that, the majority of that property with a grant. So this kind of locks that land away as a permanent recreation area, undevelopable as well for the city of Attleboro, and making it contiguous with the land that's beyond that over at La Salette. So I think that's a great situation for the city.
Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Denley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lastly, from the docket of May 5th, 2015, I entertain a motion to strike the following item from the docket of May 5th, 2015, in accordance to Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, Section 12, subsection B, the school department's 60-month lease with ACT Leasing Incorporated for 8 Ford Transit vans in the Transportation Department.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
We talked about this as well in committee. The motion's actually wrong. We need to get the proper information. So after consulting with the administration, we've decided to strike it and let them come down with a new one.
Okay. Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, as this is a motion to strike, this requires a voice vote unless anybody wants a roll call vote. Hearing none, we'll go with a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Mr. President, that's all the business I have. I just want to remind my colleagues that on Thursday night, beginning at 5:30. 5:30 will be beginning. We used to start at 5, so we've tried to extend that back a little bit, but we don't want to go too late for the people who have to stay after work and come in and meet with us. We start with the mayor to get the overall flavor for the budget, mayor, citywide budget administration, then library, health, council on aging, inspection, collector, treasurer, and we rounded off the night with planning and land use for the budget review hearings. So I got a little bit of extra work to do, reviewing the budget, and any questions that you may have, get them written down. Let's get them out there. If you have any other additional information that you're seeking, please, you can let me know what information you seek. I will not respond to you other than to go forward and seek that information for you. And make sure that we have all information so that everything can be answered as we move forward with the budget process. So I want to thank you all for your participation with that and upcoming. I'll have a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time in addition to the committee meeting on Thursday. on Saturday, we're having, don't forget, we have our river clean out, the river rats. I'm looking forward to a number of river rats. My son's home, so he's gonna rat with us, again, bottom dweller. So we're looking forward to that. And I really.
For air once in a while.
Eight? Yeah, come up for air. How many times is Barry LaCasse gonna save me this year? But 8 to 11, we start at the community garden parking lot. Anytime, even if you can only give an hour, come on down. We appreciate any help that anybody can give. There's some refreshments there as well as, just make sure you clean your hands. We'll have some hand sanitizer. So we have a good time down there, and it really does help the river. And I've enjoyed doing that over the last 5 or 6 years. So that's this Saturday. And Youth Commissions has a meeting on Thursday night, I understand. So looking forward to that. I just heard that it was posted today, that's all. So that email has to go out. So the Youth Commission's still active. So with that, I'll call for a committee meeting. I apologize for taking extra time, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilor Blair.
Report of Public Works. I have 3 motions this evening. The first being from the supplemental docket of May 19th, 2015. I move to authorize the mayor to execute and submit a municipal aggregation plan for electric service to the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities for review and approval.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
I know that we had 2 people in tonight for approximately an hour, maybe a little longer. I would hope that their questions, my fellow councilors' main concerns were answered. I know that some people feel there wasn't enough time involved for us to go into this in any more depth, but I would be amiss if I would stop or be in the way of our constituents and homeowners out there for the chance or the availability to save some money over the next years. I asked tonight whether there was any time constraints, and I was told yes. That's why I think we ought to bring it out tonight. We can always get out of it. It's not mandatory. There's no penalties for getting out. It just gives an opportunity for the people of Attleboro to save a few dollars over the next year. And I think that in these times, any dollar you can save is well worth it. And if it doesn't prove out, they can get out. But if the rate isn't right, I can't possibly see the administration putting his name on something that isn't good for the city or isn't good for the citizens of Attleboro, giving them the opportunity to save some money on their electric bill. And to be able to get into a group with the magnitude of this buying power at this time, I think is fantastic. So I myself will be voting for this, and I urge my colleagues to do the same, even if there's a few facts that they don't completely agree with. I think the main purpose of this agreement is to try to save the people in this town, the homeowners, the small people, to save on their electric bill over the next 12 months. I thought I was pretty serious, Mr. Parikh.
Thank you. Are there any other, any comments? Council Conjure.
Mr. President, I'll be supporting this measure because it's a measure, it's a program of which it's market-driven. And the market will decide upon the success or failure of the program. And that's an individual decision of each and every Attleboro resident that they can make in time. So even though many of them will get into the program by failing to opt out, I understand that, they can always opt out. So I'll be supporting the measure because, as Councilor Blair said, it's an opportunity for some people to perhaps save some money. And I think I met the original program with some level of skepticism because I didn't understand why a municipal entity like Serpide would get involved in a private contractor broker like Good Energy. But after reading the aggregation plan carefully, I was having problems with the quarterly reporting because I didn't understand really what that was for, the purpose of that, why the legislature put that into effect. But you know what? I stand with my original comment that it's market-driven. If something's going wrong, everybody can jump out of it and they're free of it. And so with that, I see it as a good program for Attleboro. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Council Parika?
Thank you, President Cook. I also, shockingly, will be supporting this. I had no questions, concerns, or I felt that the gentlemen that have come, not only from Serpent, but from Good Energy, they answered every possible question that we could drive out of that document. I've had lots of questions and concerns from constituents. There are areas, as it relates to the discussion within this body, that I may not have been satisfied with, but I have no concerns with Good Energy, so I will also be supporting it.
Any other concerns or comments? Council Churchill?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think my colleague to the left brought up some good questions, and I appreciate what he did. I know he spent some time on that. I agree with the market-driven philosophy. That the bottom line is the people have a chance to get out if they don't. And I don't see them giving us something where they're not going to save us money, because they're going to lose. I mean, I think the fact that the state has supported it, not that you should trust the government, I just ask an Indian, but I think in the long run, if the system comes to fruition, that the citizens will benefit, and they need to make it do that, so I think I will support it tonight, too.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Council Hagan?
Councilor Churchill and I are parallel on this, a lot of things that you said earlier too, and I'm going to support this. And one thing I did appreciate is the Good Energy and the SERP, the gentlemen that were presenting were answering questions. They weren't really trying to sell us. They were actually really honestly giving us answers, because I know sometimes we're given these presentations with all glossiness, and sometimes we all answered those questions, got in depth, and I didn't feel like I was being sold on something, that they will honestly believe in what they were doing was trying to save the customer some dollars in the end. So I did appreciate that. I don't like sometimes having something thrown down my throat, like that sales pitch and stuff. So I did appreciate the honesty level with the presentations. Thank you.
Okay. Any other concerns or comments at this time? Want to take the chair for a second? I love you, please. I honestly love you.
I take you at your word tonight.
As soon as you recognize me.
Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Vice President Blair. I just wanted to, I was pleased by a lot of the comments that I heard both during the meeting tonight, some of the other sessions that were there. A few of us had attended the public meeting that was held by Good Energy up at the high school a couple weeks ago. And although there were not that many citizens who were there, they actually said that there were more citizens who showed up from Attleboro than in any of the other meetings they had in any of the other communities, which I thought was rather interesting. But I thought there were a number of good comments from, being market-driven, the comments that Councilor Churchill and Councilor Hagney just made. And also, I'll admit that when I first started getting calls back in the winter from constituents who thought in some cases that we had raised the electric rates, and were saying, what can we do about this? And like so many of us and our residents, getting things in the mail and wondering, like, what is going on with this, and is it a good deal or is it isn't? And I entered into it with a certain amount of skepticism, but the comment that Councilor Hagney just made, that she felt that it wasn't a sales pitch, they were there to answer questions. As I entered into this with skepticism when I first met with Good Energy back in January, that was the sense I got from the get-go. They were here trying to genuinely answer and provide a service. And then as I looked at that company and saw their track record in other states, and the re-sign up rate of being 100%, I thought that this was a company that could potentially do good things for the citizens of Attleboro. So it is kind of a no risk in many respects, because there is an opportunity to get out, and it is, as Councilor Conti reminded us, it is market driven. So again, there are, it's something that we can do to really benefit our citizens, and that was my initial motivation in getting this going a while back. And I just want to thank you for all the comments and the questions that we've had, and the various discussions. I've appreciated them, so thank you. That concludes my comments.
Very good. I didn't want to look at the clock.
Well, Councilor Thibodeau's doing it.
No, I was engrossed in what you were saying.
So, thank you. So if there are no other comments, we will proceed with the vote. This will be a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Hagney.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Denley?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of May 19, 2015, I move to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $40,000 from account 1000-359000, undesignated fund balance free cash, to account 11241-000-521030, citywide streetlights, due to the increase of usage and rate increase.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We've all felt that increase in the rate on our own personal bills, so it relates over to the city as far as a rate increase.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Councilor
Just a
Parika?
quick question. I must have missed this during your committee meeting last week. But don't we have a contract with Constellation for the streetlights as well? So why would it be an increase, a rate increase for the streetlights? Just out of, I'm not gonna hold anything up, but I'm just thought I'd ask the question.
Evidently, there is some rate increases. I assumed it only naturally because we see it. And also usage, lights we put on.
I get usage.
Went
It's the rate part that we have a contract of 9.1 or 0.91, something like that. So that's, I have no problem with the
I wonder if
usage.
that-
That's fine. I was just curious about the increase.
I
portion of
think,
that.
if I may, I think that the 0.9 is actually the rate, per
Kilowatt hour.
kilowatt hour.
Right.
So it seems like if we've added, and I'm just wondering, is this what it is, that if we've
The way it
added?
come down, Frank, it did say rate increase. I'm wondering if it's a split rate between streetlights and municipal buildings. I know we have a contract for municipal buildings.
Right. I'm not gonna hold it up. I just thought I'd ask.
Streetlights, I believe, a National Grid direct, because when we need a streetlight added to your particular neighborhood, it's directly with National Grid, so I'm assuming that the rate, and to the best of my knowledge, that is a separate rate for streetlights.
That satisfies
Thank
my
you.
question. Thank you.
No. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Denley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Ms. Hagney?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of May 19th, 2015, I move to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $19,000 from account 1124100-578300, citywide reserve fund for transfer, due to the increase of usage to the following accounts: $12,000 to account 1124100-521000, -521005 citywide water, $7,000 to account 1124000-521000 citywide sewer.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
No, basically, we've had more usage in the water and the sewer citywide, so we need that money to pay those bills to those accounts.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Hagney.
Ms. Hagney?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika? Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Denley?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I have no other business this evening for Public Works, but would request a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Council Thibodeau.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for Transportation and Traffic. Have no business this evening, but would like to call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Council Cooper.
Thank you. Reporting for zoning and land use. I have no business this evening, but we'll call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time. And public safety and emergency management from the docket of May 19, 2015, I move to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $6,717.08 from police salary and wages full-time to police building maintenance to continue using the services of a janitorial company as the police department custodian will be out of work for the next several months.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
I know we talked about this last week. It's continuing what we have already put into motion for cleaning services at the police station.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Denley.
Yes?
Mr. Churchill.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau.
Yes.
Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
Mrs. Parika.
Yes.
Ms. Hegney.
Yes.
President Cook.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes.
From the docket of May 19, 2015, I move to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $150 from citywide reserve fund for transfer to prior year longevity regarding the need for funds for prior year longevity payment due to a change in credible service date for an employee.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
No, again, it's $150 that we have to, we're contractually obligated to pay due to a change in credible service date for a member of the fire department.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Hegney.
Ms. Hegney.
Yes.
Mrs. Parika.
Yes. Sorry, we were,
And Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
sorry.
Mr. Thibodeau.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mr. Churchill.
Yes.
Mr. Denley.
Yes?
President Cook.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
The motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes the business for public safety and emergency management. We'll call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Council Parika.
Thank you,
You're
President
welcome.
Cook. Reporting for city property and claims from the docket. I have 3 motions tonight. From the docket of May 19th, 2015, I move in accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to accept the donation of VitaPure water cooler with an estimated retail value of $100 to the Attleboro Municipal Council.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
We spoke about it in committee. The wonderful Linda Alger is making a generous donation to us very thirsty city councilors. And moving forward, we will be responsible for the purchase and the lugging in of the water upon her retirement. But thank you very much to Linda for her generous donation.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you very much. From the docket of May 19th, 2015, I move in accordance with Section 2-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to declare the following water department items as surplus and available for disposition. 240 water meters, condition used.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments?
I do not. We discuss this periodically throughout the year in committee, and it's pretty self-explanatory.
Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a roll call vote. The vote will begin with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Denley.
Yes?
Mr. Churchill.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau.
Yes.
Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
Mrs. Parika.
Yes.
Ms. Hegney.
Yes.
President Cook.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
The motion passes.
Thank you. And from the docket of May 19th, 2015, I move in accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to accept the donation of 8 trees, 2 Zalcove, 2 Tupelo, 2 Sweet Gum, 2 Honey Locust, with an estimated value of $2,500 from National Grid.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
Yes. So I actually had an opportunity to speak a little bit more with Sunny Almeida with regard to this, and it would appear that National Grid gets offers some grants, and they procure trees on a regular basis. And he was really excited about this. I know there are 2 specific trees that are being planted right in at Capron Park, and it's something that does reoccur almost yearly. But he really feels that the relationship that he has with National Grid really kind of helps generate and get them some good new trees, and really values the relationship they have. So he wanted to express the council's sincere thanks to National Grid for their generous donation.
Very good, thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes the business for city property and claims for this evening, and I call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Councilor Hegney.
Thank you. Reporting for Personnel and Human Services this evening from the docket of May 19th, 2015. I move to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $520 from account 1124100-578300 citywide reserve fund for transfer to account 1175100-51300 planning overtime due to an increase in both the hourly rate and the evening meeting hours as compared to last fiscal year.
Second. Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
We spoke about it in committee, and it's self-explanatory, and even that you saw Gary here again this evening. They have been a busy office, and unfortunately, with all the good things going on in the city and the planning, they have to put some of the overtime in, and we have to pay it.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Hegney.
Ms. Higbee.
Yes.
Mrs. Parikh.
Yes.
Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mr. Churchill.
Yes.
Mr. Denley.
Yes.
President Cook.
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
The motion passes.
That is all I have this evening, and I would like to call for committee meeting at the next appropriate time, and I'm just gonna put a copy of one of the motions, the backup is the personnel rules and regulations for exempt and non-represented employees. I'll just leave it in the office with Linda, so we have that. Instead of making copies for them.
Thank you. There is no old or new business for this evening, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We're adjourned at 9:58. Thank you very much.
Adjourn.
See you Thursday.
Went to a speech service.